OTB AM.
Brought to you by Avantcard Reward Plus Credit Card. Powered by MasterCard. Straight up better than your current credit card. Avantcard DAC is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
If you're not smiling this morning, ladies and gentlemen, well, there must be something wrong, because that is as good as it gets for Irish sport. A man whose greatest fear is Westmeath winning in All-Ireland is the sole owner of the Claret Jug right now. It's a beautiful morning for Irish sport. Anthony Moyles, how are you?
I'm good, Eoin. I'm great.
Nathan Murphy, how are you?
I'm very good, Eoin.
A friend of the pod is the Open champion. Congratulations to you.
It's a victory for all of us.
It really is. You were up there yesterday. I think we just have to start with that, and I think we're going to start with that, and the middle of today's show will be Shane Lowry, and the end of today's show will be Shane Lowry. It's especially an extended show, by the way, for everybody this morning on OTB AM. What was it like?
Magical. The whole week was just this sort of out-of-body experience. You're watching this thinking, can this actually be happening? That an Open Championship is taking place on this island, and Shane Lowry, already one of, if not our most popular sports people, isn't just winning this, he's destroying the field. Like, you think of our great sporting moments, there's always an air of the unexpected or the dramatic. Raj kicking the drop goal in the last minute when it all looks dead and buried. Any of our great footballing successes sort of come out of the blue. We're going into those matches as complete underdogs. But for him to go out and play like that in the final round of an Open Championship, and to be walking up 18, to be able to celebrate on the fairway. He said how, like anybody who's ever picked up a golf club has stood on a green against their mates and gone, this is for the Open Championship, and a little bit of pressure ramps up. Like that's the moment everyone dreams of. You never think, I'm going to have it won on the fairway or 2 holes in advance when he has a 6-shot lead. And just the atmosphere was unlike anything anyone has ever seen at the Open Championship. This isn't just me speaking. I spoke to American journalists who've been covering them for 30, 40 years. Yeah. Just the partisan nature of the crowd. And I don't think that will ever be replicated, because when they're in America, it's a very divided country, and they get behind the American. If it's in England, if it's Tommy Fleetwood, well, not that many people know him. Everyone feels like they know Shane Lowry. Yeah. Everyone's met Shane Lowry more than likely, whether it's at an Irish Open or just out and about or at a GA match. Everyone kind of feels in that sort of Irish way that they have a little part of him. So to have him do that on an Irish course, I think everybody realised the immense history that they were watching. And that just followed on from 4 days, or from 3 days in particular, from starting with McIlroy on Friday evening, where the scenes were quite similar when he's trying to make the cut. Yeah. And you've thousands of people congregating around this one group to see if their local boy can somehow salvage it out of the fire. To what Lowry did on Saturday, which is one of, if not the greatest rounds of golf any Irish player has ever played at a major championship. That spell of 15, 16, 17, when he probably won the tournament with the 3 birdies, was a bit surreal. It happened in the space of 15 minutes, and you're thinking, this is going to happen. He has played just flawless golf. And then yesterday, when it wasn't a straightforward 4-shot lead in those conditions, worsening conditions, even that first hole, and look, there were huge nerves, and he didn't hit a great tee shot off the first, but everyone was coming up well short of the bunkers. He just about made the fairway over in the rough on the left-hand side. There could have been a huge swing there. Tommy Fleetwood misses a birdie putt. Lowry holds his bogey putt. Could have been a 3-shot swing. Ends up in a 1-shot swing. And there was never any great tension after that, I felt. Fleetwood never put the pressure on. That in what became apparent very quickly was going to be a shootout between the two of them. You needed the man who's chasing to have one moment, and he had his chances. There were probably 4 or 5 where you felt if he hold the putt that maybe Lowry might crumble, but to go on then in those conditions, it was horrific. Coming out of the course last night, all the roads around were completely flooded. It was torrential rain, driving winds for a good 40 minutes, and I'd say that was the only time he was worried, because an element of luck and lottery sort of comes into it when it's that bad. Right. But to shoot 72, I was having a look there, of the last 12 groups that went out, and they were the ones who played in the bad weather, he shot the second best score. Only Tony Finau shot a better score. And to do that under that level of pressure. So there's a part of it that's, wow, it's this great thing because it's Shane Lowry and he's such a nice guy. And there's another part, he's actually produced this stunning golfing performance.
Yeah, he went into full machine mode on Saturday. It was one of the most spectacular things I've seen on a golf course from an Irish golfer, especially in recent times.
I've never seen more people with tears in their eyes. Media, family, general public, just this genuine happiness that I think people always thought he had the talent, but just for even he was 50 to 1. 50 to 1 this week.
Yeah,
You're looking at him.
surprised.
He'd won the North of Ireland here 12, 13 years ago, thinking like just underestimated.
And he was confident, wasn't he?
Yeah, like he had to have been, and like I mean, the way he spoke in the press conference after Saturday as well. Like with any other golfer, you're like, oh, careful now. But with Shane Lowry, you're like, he's clearly got his head right. He says that he's much happier being in contention now than he was at Oakmont in 2016. He can sleep on the lead way better than he used to. But just on that point, do the world media, people who don't know Shane Lowry as well, underestimate him because he's such a nice guy? They're like, well, this is the affable chap who comes down the home stretch, had that chance at Oakmont in 2016, but in terms of being a world-class golfer, perhaps is underestimated. And this will change the worldview of Shane Lowry.
Oh, there's no question. This is massively going to change the worldview. The way golf is, and we're all guilty of this, if you're not a top 10 player in the world, everybody else is probably underestimated. You go into every major expecting, and generally they deliver Koepka, Spieth, Rose, Dustin Johnson, and you don't spend a huge amount of time talking about this. I was chatting with John Duggan last night, about who we had backed, and like both of us were saying, if we weren't Irish, Shane Lowry is the first man you would have tipped to win this tournament, because you're always looking for an inside track, and he's played the course, he knew it well. You look at his form, he's had the best 6 months of his life. From the victory in Abu Dhabi, he had a second place finish in America, third place finish at the Canadian Open, and then actually down at the Irish Open, played really well on the first day and got sick. Like, that was the problem for him. He actually went home that night, got up the next morning and just didn't feel well. And I noticed, and there was a definite change in him at the Irish Open this year from previous years. This was his 10th he's played as a professional, so a 10th where he's been known. And he's definitely struggled to deal with the expectation and the pressure, and the expectation for his time, I think, as much as anything else, because everyone feels they own a bit of him. Everyone wants an autograph, everyone wants to talk to him for 5 minutes. He knows so many people in Irish golf that, like, countless interviews after the last 10 years where he's been cranky and he's been annoyed, and it's just all got a bit too much for him. The Irish Open this year just had a permanent smile on his face, and that was the one thing that stood out for me, particularly on Friday and again yesterday. We all had a smile on our face. He had this permanent smile over the 4 days that nothing was going to get to him. And on Friday I followed him for a couple of hours, and the weather again wasn't great, and he was playing with Phil Mickelson, and there were these long breaks with slow stuff, and they were standing in every tee box for 5 or 6 minutes, and he had this just giant grin on his face, sort of scanning the crowd, which I think he does to sort of distract himself and see who he knows. And we probably get on to the influence of his caddy. Caddy never stopped talking to him at any stage over the 4 days.
Yeah, it seemed that way.
And then Saturday, he almost seemed delirious in the post-round interviews. I was listening to one of his interviews after the round on Saturday with 5 Live, and he's like, this isn't me. He's like, this isn't golf. Like, listen to this. When everyone's singing there's only one Shane Lowry and there's hundreds and thousands of people singing Ole Ole behind him. It's like, this isn't golf. It's not. Like, the Ryder Cup, you might get that partisan nature.
Yes,
But at an Open Championship, for so many people to be behind one person. And my only concern was, how do you bring yourself down? Because the feeling was he'd went into the press conference, and you've probably seen the answer where he's like, I'm just talking gobbledygook. He can't get it out. That he just couldn't understand it. And I think that's the one thing we all struggle to get. Like, that's sort of Rory McIlroy stuff. It's not Shane Lowry stuff. And for him to be in the middle of that, and then actually to manage to get to sleep, I don't think he slept very well, he said, understandably, on Saturday night. And to go out and perform to that level was just incredible.
Let's hear from Shane Lowry yesterday. He was speaking in the aftermath of that incredible win at Royal Portrush.
No, I struggled last night because we finished very late last night, and again I got out of here, it was like 8:30 or 8:20 or so, and got back to the house, had food, and like went to bed at 11 o'clock, but obviously I didn't sleep very well. I'd say I slept for about 4 or 5 hours last night, and I normally throw a good 8-10 hours at it, so wake up in the middle of the night thinking about all sorts, and I was awake at 6:30 this morning, so the tea time moved forward was quite nice. It was a couple hours earlier than it was yesterday. Look, I think I knew that I had to fight to the bitter end today, and that's what helped me, and that's where I struggled in Oakmont. And I always said after Oakmont, if I could have got the last 4 holes back, I'd give anything to be standing on the 14 fairway again. I had a wedge in my hand on 14, and I always said I'd give anything to be standing there again, and I knew today that I was going to have to fight to the very end, and I did. I didn't let myself I said I let myself think about it on 17 and enjoy it, but I still, you're still hitting shots, and you're, links golf, bunkers, rough, all sorts can happen out there. So I let myself really, really enjoy it going down 18. But before that, I was really just fighting till the end.
It seemed that he allowed himself to enjoy it on Saturday as well, which we've already kind of mentioned. And I think that kind of comes from just the way he looks at the world now. Golf obviously meant a hell of a lot more to him in terms of his identity as a person 3 years ago. Now it doesn't matter as much. And that doesn't mean that he doesn't care deeply about it. Like, he talks about the most important things in his life and what his dreams are, and it's to have a healthy family in 10, 15 years' time.
Fatherhood has probably helped him, in a massive way. I don't know the guy personally or anything like that, but from reading all the stuff, and I remember he did an interview with you, I think it was last year, and I remember I was driving home listening to it, and he sounded genuinely depressed. He sounds so frustrated and so annoyed with his game. I remember him saying to you, I don't know what's going on. I actually don't know what's happening.
Which is the worst thing for a golfer. That if you have a problem and you know what it is, you can get your coach
of an injury, of whatever it is. But I actually was saying to myself, I said, that sounds like a guy who's actually going to pack in the game. And I think he actually said in the interview, I'd consider, he was that, it was absolutely, the interview was pouring with emotion. And to do then what he has done, as you say, to have a smile on his face, it's chicken and egg. How do you get into a situation where you're leading in the Open? You're leading overnight, but you have the mentality to say, actually, I'm just going to go out and enjoy this. Still play golf, but obviously have things in perspective. So his ability to do what he did yesterday would never have come if he didn't get himself out of that black hole the way he did. And you know what I love about him? He's never really spoken about it. He hasn't kind of gilded the lily at all, saying, I went to it and did it. He's just kind of got on with it. Obviously he's had a lot of help, or he's got his head right from whatever way, but he hasn't kind of put it out there. He's always trusted in his game. He's a naturally, obviously brilliantly natural golfer, and I'd say he probably removed himself. I don't know if you know the answer. I'd say he's not the type who just buried himself back into it, because he sounded to me in that interview that he was actually sick of actually playing rounds.
Well, he touched on that in the press conference afterwards. So 2 weeks after we spoke to him at the Irish Open, he goes to Carnoustie and he misses the cut for the 4th year in a row at the Open, and he bombs out of the place. He said he sat in his car and cried because he didn't see any way out. Again, questioning his future in the game. There's been changes. The most obvious one was that he changed his caddy, and he brought in Bo Martin, who was a vastly experienced caddy. I know Peter Lowry recommended him. He was a former caddy for Peter, and Shane, being the gentleman he is, didn't want to say, well, listen, the change of caddy is what done it, because he worked with his previous caddy for so long. But I think he needs distraction when he's playing golf, because you say, Shane is one of the most natural golfers out there. His swing is his own thing. He doesn't need a coach there making vast technical changes. And being on the range over the last few days and watching some of the world's best players and how they interact with their coach, Pete Cowan is a lot of their coaches. So he's sort of wandering around between 2 or 3 players, not really saying much, just having a chat, just mentally trying to say the right thing. Neil Manship never stops talking to Shane on the range. And I can't imagine, again, it's a technical thing. They just seem to constantly be in a sort of little bit of small talk here and there. His caddy, again, even on the range, almost just sort of taking Shane away from himself, that he's not standing over the ball massively thinking about this. And again, you're standing 10 feet back. You could be reading way too much into this. But I thought it was the most notable thing of following him around was the amount of conversation between him and his caddy. Phil Mickelson, he was in a strange place this week considering he hadn't eaten for a week, but Mickelson's caddy is his brother Tim, who's also a brilliant coach, and the two of them barely spoke to each other the whole way around. Phil wasn't in the mood, obviously, but and caddies and players, Harry Diamond and Rory McIlroy, don't constantly talk. Rory likes to do his own thing. On the second, third greens, when the pressure could have been on, constant conversation, not just the odd word here. It felt as though Bo never stopped talking.
And was he talking about the actual...
No, I would imagine it was the last thing. There must be the odd little bit of a pep talk here and there. And I think even on 18, Shane said that Bo said, look, you need to finish this off, when he was celebrating walking up the fairway. Let's get this done. Let's not take 9 shots now to get down from the edge of the green. But never stop talking. And obviously just, again, keeping his mind off, because he doesn't have an issue there. When it comes to the technical skills of it, he doesn't have an issue. And there's a million little things that build into what made it so special, but one of them is, and you're the sports person here, so how rare it is, what you touched on Saturday, that a sports person sort of embraces everything that's going around. It would have been so easy, and so many players on Saturday night, when all hell was breaking loose, to just put their head down, and do the GEA player interview and go, look, the job's not done. Look, everyone just needs to calm down a little bit. There's a long way to go. 4 shots is nothing. And instead he went, and he said that to Bo as well, walking down 16-17 on Saturday evening. Let's enjoy this. This may never happen to us again. And he's probably right. Even though they're talking about coming back to Portrush as early as 2024 now, it was such a success, which is incredible to think it could be back in 5 years.
Because even if it is back, and even if he wins again, he may have to actually play a bit of golf on the 17th and 18th to actually win it. So to actually enjoy it in that perspective is
he embraced
truly
it, obviously. And obviously, again, it's a read through from what he has done in his own the psychology in his own life, that he embraced it. I'd say he's the type of fella saying, I have a wife, I have a healthy child, I'm in a great place. Isn't this a great place to be? Because as you say, a lot of fellas do that whole fear thing where they're saying, oh, listen, we won't worry about it, but they're actually thinking about it constantly. We'll just put our head down, we have to win tomorrow or whatever it is. But actually, you're nearly tipping your hat to fear there. You're not actually embracing the whole event that is the next day. It was fantastic to hear.
The fatherhood aspect will be interesting to dig into a little bit. It might be a dadcast topic down the line because, funny enough, very soon after his daughter was born, he ended up moving to America because he got his PGA Tour card, and that is what sort of sparked this slump, that he was spending a huge amount of time away from Ireland. Now, his wife and child were there a lot of the time, but he was suddenly away from home, and part of that could easily be he's just had a child, he's had this opportunity. You think, I need to provide for this house, I need to go make the most successful career I possibly can, and okay, I need to be away from them for 4 weeks, but I'm doing the right thing for my family. We're actually losing his PGA Tour card, moving back to Ireland, and he's probably spent almost as much time in America because he's had such a good season. But the fact he's based here, he feels he's around, it probably got him to reset and go, you know what, this is my home, these are my people.
This is what I'm comfortable with.
I'll go and play golf, and if I do well, good and well. But because it must be a part of it, certainly losing his PGA Tour card and having to be over in Florida, and then you're based in Florida, you're flying all over America, you're home for a day and you're back on a flight again, whereas having his base here in Dublin, I would say, was a huge thing.
But he referenced her, didn't he? I think on Saturday, did he say, listen, whatever happens, she'll be there at the end and I'll see her. That's for someone even to think that, when you're in the zone, you say, well, actually, no, that's a very important thing for me. That's massive.
And he wanted that. In Abu Dhabi when he won in January, which sparked this.
He made sure they were there at the 18th.
And he had said again to his wife, Wendy, that morning, I want her there. Either way, I want to know that no matter what happens here, that this isn't, anyone who watches PGA Tour golf knows the way this is set up. The Americans love the schmaltz of the kids are all there. As I mean, Jason Day's son Dash is going to be 18 and he's going to be forced to stand on the edge of the 18th and give Dad a big emotional hug whether he likes it or not. But that actually Shane Lowry was, I don't just want her there if I win. I want her there knowing that actually, no matter what happens here, it doesn't matter. Ultimately, tonight when I go home, it doesn't matter that much. You're kidding yourself in a lot of ways, but if you kid yourself and it works out this way.
Let's hear a little bit more from Shane Lowry.
I think the people around me really believed that I could, which helps me an awful lot. I do remember a lot of times in the past when I'm down on myself and serious chats with Neil, he always reminded me that he always said that I was going to win one. At least one, he said. So, I suppose when you have the people around you really believe in you, it helps you an awful lot. So, obviously, look, I'm Irish. I grew up holding putts on the putting green back home to win the Open. It was always the Open, wasn't it? And I watched Paddy winning his 2 Opens. I mean, I didn't even know him back then, and I'm obviously very good friends with him. To have him there on the 18th, you go into Paddy's house and his claret jug is sitting there on the kitchen table, and I'm going to have one on my kitchen table now as well. So I said that to him. That's going to be quite nice. And was there another question there? Oh, Carnoustie, how far? Yeah, look, that just shows how fickle golf is. Golf's a weird sport and you never know what's around the corner, and that's why you always kind of need to remind yourself, and you need to have the people there to remind you that you need to just fight through the bad times. And I sat in the car park in Carnoustie on the Thursday. It was probably almost like a year ago right to this week, and I cried. I my golf wasn't my friend at the time. It was you know, it was something that it was becoming very stressful and it was weighing on me, and I just didn't like doing it. And look, 12, what a difference a year makes, I suppose.
It's great that Patrick Harrington's kitchen counter, which you've seen first hand, Nathan, got to mention there with his claret jug.
Two of them. You're
going to have to get the tour around Shane Lowry's gaff now to get to see the claret jug. Like that's an interesting relationship, Lowry and Harrington. Like he was one of the first people to greet him off the green yesterday. Got a huge cheer as well.
I remember Harrington missed the cut.
Yeah. So he's hung around
because he knew Lowry was in contention.
Like I'd imagine it's a very interesting. I'd love to be a fly on the wall for some of those conversations because they seem to approach golf in such massively different way. One's like a complete perfectionist, very meticulous about his planning, whereas Lowry, as we've just discussed, is somebody who needs the distraction to actually thrive in the golf course.
Yeah. Well, but he also, what Lowry loves is the competitive side of it. He needs to be playing for something. And Graham McDowell, we might hear, touched on this, that something he has probably brought to that sort of Irish circuit and why he fitted in so quickly. And Peter Lowry was talking yesterday about playing his first ever practice round as a professional with Shane Lowry. So they have these Tuesday, Wednesday, basically chipping competitions. Money, they're not quite Phil Mickelson on his Tuesday for 50 grand money games, but Lowry and Harrington go head to head pretty much whenever they're at a tournament on a Tuesday or Wednesday in a chipping competition.
Okay, yeah.
And like McDowell was saying, like for Shane, winning that is almost more important than winning the tournament. Yeah. Like getting one over on his mate. But because of that, like that's exactly the type of practice every player is looking for, where there is that intensity. And he does that with all the players. Like any opportunity, I think, to have a little bit of, in practice, to add a bit of a competitive edge. And like chipping is the best short game probably in the world away from Phil Mickelson. So it was great again to see that sort of camaraderie of Harrington and McDowell, and them being genuinely happy. They didn't just have to hang around, but that they were genuinely happy that he's joined their club. Padraig Harrington was saying down in Lahinch, we're talking about who's going to host the Irish Open, and he was saying, well, you know, hopefully Shane gets one of these and he can host it at some stage as well.
When I saw these quotes come out Saturday night, Sunday morning, I said, I really hope we get to read these out on Monday morning with just tons and tons of glee, and that's exactly what I'm going to do right now. It's Lee Westwood. He said after Saturday's round, Shane's in the lead, he's in a big lead, but no lead is big enough when the weather gets bad on a links course, and he's going to have an awful lot of pressure on him hitting in front of a home crowd, so he'll be nervous. It'll be a tough, long day for him. The last day of a major is always long, but it's going to be 100 times worse for him. Guess what, Lee Westwood? It's 100 times better for him. He's won the Open on this island. Like, come on! Like, I mean, I can see the process behind, you know, getting inside somebody's head, which, like, you don't actually see.
Everything he says is probably true. But that's not golf on, and especially Lee Westwood, who's 46 at this stage. Like, have a bit more about yourself. There's no need to say that, and also, like, there's any amount of statistics out there for players who've had top fives in majors over the last 15 years that haven't won one. Like Lee Westwood's well out in front on his own there. So I don't think Shane Lowry will give a shit about that.
No, one person who does give a shit is Brendan Lowry. You were speaking to him in the aftermath as well yesterday, Nathan.
Oh yeah.
Your son is the Open champion.
Absolutely brilliant. I just can't. I don't know, it's just, I can't believe he won by 6 shots first anyway. You know, I know he'd be happy with his shot or whatever way he wins it, but like, I just couldn't believe. And maybe the weather, I think the weather played a big part, that he wasn't used to the weather, but like everybody, I suppose, he grew up weather like that and links, that it probably helped him with do you know what I mean, that other players didn't get up. They had, rather than
match play very early.
Yeah, rather than catching him, they couldn't catch him, so he had to fall back. So I was very happy that he dug it out and started. He started kind of nervously, probably all right, which I don't know how anybody tee off on the first tee there. I tell you, it's a nightmare.
He got it out there.
He got it out there, like, and he got a great bogey, as a matter of fact, from 7 feet, so which was, you know, and then he came back into it and he settled down and played nice, you know. But played well all week, anyways, played very well, you know.
There was a lot of emotional people out there, people who barely even know Shane. For you, his father, what were the emotions like, particularly when he was walking up 18, when you knew it was done?
Yeah, well, we all met it behind and sure, like, everybody was pouring. Harry came in, we were all there, and he said, will you all stop crying? That's what he said, like, everybody was crying, like, you think it's something, you know, serious had happened, like, but I was sure the feeling, like, that's what he dreamed about when he was playing, like any young sportsman, whatever sports to take up, to dream about things like that. And sure, what about winning your Open and the British Open in your...
You literally couldn't even dream it.
You can't dream it, like in Portrush, where he likes to, you know. So, like, it's just unbelievable.
What's the party going to be like tonight? Where's the party going to be most importantly?
No, nobody even... I ain't going over now to get a bottle of Heineken. That's where I'm going.
How does it compare to 82?
There's no comparison at all. You're different. When your son does that, like, sure, there's not too much that can... Do you know? Different. That was a different era that I was playing that time. So, well, that's...
Yeah.
You know, I'm nothing I can't really say anymore.
When you think back to where he was a year ago, and he said it himself this week, leaving the Open Championship in a very, very low place. And again, there's the other side as a father. You have to pick your words over the course of the year.
But you have to be there the whole time. That golf is so fickle sometimes. And even today there, he looked like he was going to drop a shot, and then he maybe hold the putt, and Tommy Fleetwood missed one and he gained one. And you know, instead of 4 shots ahead, he was 6 shots, and that kind of, you know, golf is very funny, you know.
Yeah. Shane had some lovely words for you when he was just after receiving the claret jug. He was quite emotional saying it. Like any good parents.
Is it? Friday. I was 60 last Friday.
So it's quite a weekend of celebrations.
And he says, "Happy birthday, Dad." I sort of had to go around everything, you know.
Is that the best birthday present you've ever got?
Absolutely. It's mental, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's insane. Go enjoy the next few days.
Thanks, guys.
That's class. That's Brendan Lowry speaking to Nathan afterwards. So, like, I presume that's at the end of the day. I'd say by the time you're driving down yesterday evening, the place is still hopping.
It took about nearly 4 hours to get back. The crowds trying to get back out, and they were actually coming back down to Dublin as well. The party was in Dublin city centre last night, so I hope they weren't stuck in that. Maybe somebody put on a helicopter to fly them straight through. Like, obviously everybody saw the moments on Sky with the immediate family and Harrington and McDowell. There was about 20 minutes later, just when he'd finished his Sky interview, and I'm not sure if anyone could hear any of his interviews on any of the television stations because everybody in the background was just roaring. It was, "Give us a wave, Shane," in the middle of the interviews. But just outside that area, a load of his mates were there, and they wouldn't let them in because they didn't have the right passes. And I'd said it was about 10 or 15 of his mates and probably his more extended family. And eventually, after about 10 minutes, they agreed to let them in, and there's just this massive rush of about 25, probably mostly Offaly people, running towards the Sky studios and the BBC studios, and Shane appears out and all the family, and they run the other way. They all just come together, and everybody's in floods of tears. It was just, again, just the genuine happiness of so many people. You could not take your smile off your face yesterday just watching it all.
We're going to get to the back pages and the front pages in just a moment because they capture the images so well. But one question I actually haven't asked really is, what was the best part of his golf game all week?
Well, his ability to play links. Tee to green was statistically, I think, right up there with some of the great tee to green play, which was everything, because the greens were slow because of the expected winds. So putting, there wasn't as much of a premium on putting as there might be, certainly on, say, a PGA Tour event. But off the tee, he was a bit ragged on Saturday off the tee, but his recovery play, he's 17 of 18 greens on Saturday, which in links golf, even though it was benign, it's just sensational. So his iron play all weekend was exceptional. Yesterday was a different day. It was just grind it out. You know, you're going to make mistakes. In those conditions, you're going to make mistakes. It's how you respond. Like, probably 2 or 3 of his best shots from the week were out of fairly deep rough, where, you know, he just kept it low and just ran it up onto the green. So everyone knew he had the game for links golf, even if his Open record hadn't shown it. So I think if you were to look at it statistically, his iron play was head and shoulders above pretty much everybody else.
Right, let's tell you what's coming up this morning on OTBAM. As I said, it is a specially extended show on this Monday morning. We're getting into the sports pages in just a moment. There's more Shane Lowry chat coming, as you can imagine there. We're going to get stuck into the Super 8s then at around 8:15. We'll have Enda McGinley joining Anthony here as well to talk about the 4 games at the weekend. The sports news at 8:35. Will O'Callaghan delivering the sports news this morning. He's a very, very happy Offaly man this morning. Offaly Midlands man this morning. The Midlands is rocking, I'd imagine. 8:45 then, Deal or No Deal, the transfer news from the weekend. The Open with John Duggan then at 5 to 9, who's been with us, who's been up at Royal Portrush over the course of the weekend. Then Mark Tighe, the Sunday Times, will be chatting about the FAI, new developments in the Sunday Times yesterday morning, the EGM as well at the weekend, so plenty to talk about there. We are with you all the way through until 10 a.m. this morning. Check this out.
Join Off the Ball in Abu Dhabi this November 17th to 23rd for the inaugural Off the Ball Open. With flights from Dublin, 5 nights in a 4-star hotel, golf on 2 championship courses, gala awards dinner, Peter Lowry golf clinic, and a live Off the Ball roadshow. You can also hang out with some special guests, including Kevin Kilban and Kieran Donaghy. The inaugural Off the Ball Open. Book now at CassidyTravel.ie and check out offtheball.com.
We're going to start this morning with the Irish Times, and the front page of the Irish Times goes with Shane Lowry and his family. The headline, I grew up holding putts to win the Open. It was always the Open. Major breakthrough. Lowry holds his nerve to win the British Open, and of course it is the main story on the front page of the Sports Supplement as well this morning. Philip Reed's headline is Magnificent Lowry, the giant of the Causeway Coast. Off-the player fights through bad times to claim maiden major in dominant display. Quite a picture yesterday as Shane Lowry walks up to the 18th green at Royal Portrush.
Yeah, I have the Irish Sun with the pretty good headline, Insane in the Rain, Shane. Which is
top of the morning to you.
Top of the morning is right, yeah, absolutely. So, and then obviously in the back page it just basically goes, what a day, I couldn't believe it was happening, it was quite surreal. Just some nice shots of the rain teeming down and him there with the family. So yeah, brilliant stuff.
The Irish Independent, front of the Irish Independent, Shane's Open Joy, €1.7 million man, which we haven't talked on the actual benefits aside from the claret jug. He gets the 1.7 million, and the benefits for his golf game are massive. He mentioned that his daughter will be 30 by the time he now finishes up playing at the Open Championship, because he gets to go back every year till he's 60. He also gets a 5-year exemption on the PGA Tour, a 10-year exemption on the European Tour, guaranteed to play all the other majors for the next 5 years at the very least. Like, the pressure's off. So now we can see where he goes when there's you're not fighting.
That's a double whammy for his game. Given the way we just talked about the lack of pressure being such a good thing for Shane Lowry, his ability to not have that, to actually look at the perspective like this.
He can pick and choose his calendar now for the next 5 years. Play where he wants, when he wants. And listen, the 1.7 is the €1 million the prize. Never mind just all the extras, I'm sure, that will come in terms of sponsorship as well. So yeah, it's a career life-changing day for Shane Lowry. Yeah, it certainly is. The Irish Daily Mirror goes with Happy as Lowry on the front page. Open champion Shane lands €1.73 million payday with his first major. And then the back page is It's Royal Port Mush, not a dry eye in the house, as Shane romps to victory. Yeah, I have the Herald, and it's Shane's Claret Hug, which is another good one. And then on the back it actually goes into Lowry can be giant of game. I think he's already pretty much is. And then Jim Gavin saying all of the Dublin panel are an option. Obviously it's sick of answering questions about Dermot Connolly yesterday. And Paul Kern with an article about Con O'Callaghan, King Kong, shows why he is crucial. The Star, the Claret Jug, again, Shane Weatherstorm to become major champ is the front. And on the back page, Rain Lowry. And the picture of Shane Lowry in front of all the photographers. Also, Declan Boner says we'll have it tough, talking about having to go to Castlebar to try and qualify for the semi-finals. And also they've Mark McCadden is over in Yerevan for that great win for the Republic of Ireland under-19s, beating the Czech Republic 2-1. Are you kind of more, you're ready to take on the summer now after yesterday? The Mayo win, the Lowry win? Well, I was only following it on Twitter while out on the golf course. Didn't give a full sense of just how brilliant Mayo obviously were yesterday. Well, we'll get into that very shortly. I think you're going to hang around for a bit of the GA chat. The back page of the Times is Lowry out on his own. Irishman at least 3 shots clear throughout final round as he coasts to rousing open at Portrush. Yeah, that's it from me. And just the back of the Daily Mail. Happy as Lowry. Super Shane's dreaming of a Ryder Cup spot after Open win. That'll be the next thing on the horizon. Yes. And obviously getting into all those events. Like the way the golfing world works is at times it's not the fairest. But when you're in the top 20, and I think he's up to maybe 17th in the world right now, everything becomes a whole lot easier. Yeah. So you're playing in, say, World Golf Championships where there's no cut, and just for turning up you get 50 grand. Which is nice. He's playing the World Golf Championship over in Memphis this week. I'm sure he probably won't fly out today now somehow. Might leave it till tomorrow. But the Ryder Cup will be very much on his horizon. And the fact that Padraig Harrington is the captain, if he's in any form at all, even if he doesn't qualify automatically, if he's in any form at all, Harrington, you would imagine, is going to give him the wild card.
Well, it makes his job so much easier now because Harrington said that he can't really pick Lowry on the wild card up until this point. But now you've got an open winner, Shane Lowry, so you've got to pick Shane Lowry if he's in and around the wild card spots.
And the other one is Donegal manager Boner slams ridiculous rule after County forced to play with depleted squad. This is that Donegal obviously had to name their squad of 26 on Wednesday evening. 2 players got injured after that, so they had only 24 players available yesterday.
And rattled through a number of them. To be fair to them, like, we'll get into it, but the resilience, they lost 3 players, was it, before the throw-in? They lost the 2 midfielders after about, the second midfielder, McFadden went off after about 30-odd minutes. They were down to the bare bones, as were Kerry, to be fair to them, but they were really down to the bare bones, Donegal.
The Racing Post goes with 70-1 shot Lowry, picture perfect at Portrush. That's our headline on the back page. And let's have a flick through some of the UK back pages this morning. No one claiming Shane Lowry, I hope. Lowry lands his ultimate prize, says the back of The Guardian. Irishman is a darling of Royal Portrush after winning the Open by 6 shots. The Telegraph goes with Lowry storms to victory. Irishman in tears after winning Claret Jug. And we've got the Daily Express. Shane Rains, Irishman weathers a storm to turn tears into cheers. And the Independent is Shane Lowry there. That is the front page of the London Independent, actually. Picture Shane Lowry. I think the only UK front page to lead with it, and that is the Metro. People's champion, historic Open, gets perfect finish as raucous crowd hails Lowry's triumph. And the Mirror goes with football, £1 million a week. Bale offered amazing deal by Beijing club after he's shown door by Zidane at Real. More on that a little bit later. They go with Portmush. And then Star Sport, the Emerald Smile. Super Shane is Irish hero. They've also got that Gareth Bale story. More on that later on. And this is iSport, Lowry. This is a win for all of Ireland. And we've also got some Twitter reaction, I think. The Coronas celebrating in the afterglow of Shane Lowry, raising a toast to the legend that is at Shane Lowry Golf. We've got Niall Horan, of course, massive golf fan. Massive Midlands fan, of course. Huge congratulations to Shane Lowry. You're a great man, an incredible golfer, and that was one hell of a performance. Watching an Irishman winning the Open is an incredible thing. So happy for you, Shane. And Ian Poulter, what a classy performance all week. Like, he is loved amongst the golf fraternity.
Yeah, he's genuinely very popular among other players, and even Tommy Fleetwood, even though he was disappointed, seemed, I think,
another friend of the pod.
Warm enough. Jack Nicklaus, not a friend of the pod, obviously, yeah. Very happy for one Irishman, Shane Lowry.
Yeah, for sure.
The scenes where it was like the Tiger Woods. Remember a number of months ago where he came up and the crowd just started to come after. Like that's the first I've ever seen that. And then that was like practically replicated. There's a great piece on Twitter yesterday. So they just like surrounded him as they were coming up.
Well, he's walking up, arms outstretched at a sort of nice leisurely pace, trying to take it all in, and then he's sort of looking around and it sort of
the pace picks
moves
up.
a little bit quicker to a full-blown canter then, as he's just trying to speed past everybody, and he just about manages to break through. One interesting thing I noticed yesterday, and I thought it was a rule change, but actually it's not. Shane Lowry obviously went out and got the Claret Jug and the gold medal. Generally, there's 2 other presentations. The silver medal for best amateur. So that the amateur has to make the cut. So there was no silver medal.
Okay.
James Sugrue devastated on Friday because he was 1 shot off and he had a triple bogey in 14. He would have been the only player to make the cut and win the silver medal. But the runner-up also gets a prize. But Tommy Fleetwood never appeared. Obviously just so devastated. Just couldn't face it. So generally, if you look back at even Sergio, when he was beaten by Harrington, had to stand there looking glum. It's a terrible thing to put someone through.
It is, yeah, it's shocking.
Imagine having to, if you were lifting Sam Maguire and you have to stand beside Stephen Cluxton as he does it.
Hand it to him.
Yeah.
There you go.
We're going to get into the Gaelic football in just a moment. Like, I mean, you talk about the week that this was for Shane Lowry. Just kind of the other thing, even from Friday's AM when Joe was on with us, he was saying that the whole sleeping on the lead thing is something that Shane Lowry in the past he hasn't really been able to handle it. Like 2016, we've mentioned it before, it really helped this week that he only had to kind of sleep on the outrageous lead on just a Saturday night. Had he put in Saturday's score on Thursday, for example, this could have been a hell of a lot different. Or do you think he's actually just capable now of handling it regardless of how many nights
I think he is capable. I think this is a Shane Lowry over the last 6 months that we haven't seen before. He has always had the talent. He's been incredibly inconsistent. His wins pop up every few years. Nobody really knows when it's going to happen for him. But this time, it's the first stage of his career every week you know that he's going to get to a certain level, and I think he knows that as well. So when he has a good round, it's not out of the blue. And like you look back at Padraig Harrington, the first day of the Irish Open, had this stunning round of, was it a 63? But he didn't have much to back that up on. There was no form. So you're looking at it going, can I replicate that? I'm not sure. Ooh, that kind of came out of the blue.
Yeah.
He's had this good form for 6 months solid now, that he knows he's going to get to a certain level. So I think everything we've known about Shane Lowry before this year, and we knew he was good, we sort of have to rethink now, because he just seems like a totally different man. Totally different player, totally different man.
It's funny, like I'd say it's a very, very weird setup. You mentioned, the top 10, and I was watching a little bit of footage over the last few days, and you could see Lowry come out. I can't remember what it was at. It might have been at the last championship, but he was walking behind a lot of golfers who were just out with their coaches, just pre-game, and there wasn't anyone kind of turning around saying hello to him. He was kind of walking around. He smiley face on him walking along, just kind of looked happy-go-lucky type thing. And there was Koepka, I think there was Woods, and McGinley was talking just after it and was saying that people underestimate how good this guy is. He was saying this guy is a serious, serious golfer. And I'm going back to your point of the kind of affable kind of Irishman, I'd say there's probably a bit of that. And I'd say when you're in that zone with all of those guys, I'd say, first of all, obviously there's a lot of competition. There's probably a fair amount of, not jealousy, but that kind of competitive nature would be like, well, what we have we're going to hold, and we're not going to kind of let you in at all. And I'd say it's a closed club, so for him to have the other Irish lads is a big thing. But I'd say that a lot of the times, because obviously Harrington's gone back down a bit, I'd say McIlroy, I don't know, but it seems to me that he does a lot of his own thing. So I'd say when he was going through that tough time, I'd say he felt pretty isolated, that he had this game, but yet he wasn't getting the rewards that he was putting into it. So for him to just roll back from that, to understand, to realise his ability, to probably just trust in himself, and probably, maybe, I don't know, but maybe there was this sense of, I have to get into that club, but now he just kind of seems, kind of irreverent to it, and kind of like, I'm just going to be happy in myself with my family and what I have. And now you can just, for me, the rewards, you can obviously see it, but everyone now all over the world is going to realise, actually, this guy is a serious, serious proposition.
Yeah, there's probably a little bit of living in the shadow of Rory McIlroy. They're very similar age, their careers have come together at the same time.
Was Rory there yesterday?
No, I think Rory, as far as I know, went straight home. Understandably, I think he poured his heart and his soul into Friday. I don't think we'll ever see Rory McIlroy like we saw him on Friday night, literally pretty much in tears on his Sky Sports interview, having missed the cut. It was almost as if McIlroy playing sort of 16, 17, 18, it was only then that it dawned on him what it could have been like what it was for Shane Lowry yesterday. It was different. That it was only then almost that McIlroy realised, this wouldn't have been like just winning another major, even with the 5-year wait. This could have topped everything. This would have been it was a once in a lifetime, maybe not once in a lifetime with the way it's looking for Portrush, but potentially a once in a lifetime opportunity. And to not just not win, but to absolutely bomb. I'd say he was a little bit. I'd say he was a little bit embarrassed on Thursday night with what. Not even a little bit. Massively embarrassed with what happened in his first round, and there was Graham McDowell mentioned it as well yesterday. There's a famous story. Pete Cowan, again, this legendary coach, was down at Carton House at a GUI camp many years ago. It's probably 13, 14 years ago, to look at Rory McIlroy, and obviously blown away by McIlroy's talent, but said to everybody there, keep an eye on that other guy. He's got something. He's got something, talking about Shane Lowry. So people knew the talent was there, but nobody can compare to Rory McIlroy. Rory McIlroy is a worldwide superstar who had different probably dreams and aspirations from a very young age. Like Shane wasn't on Jerry Kelly putting balls into washing machines when he was 4 years of age. Shane was the only golfer, he said yesterday, in the school of 500. He was the only one who played golf. McIlroy was destined for greatness from a very early age, and probably from when he was a teenager, from 16, 17, taught and expected to win majors. And Lowry, it probably took him a long time to realise. Even he said, woke up yesterday morning, wasn't quite sure if he was good enough to win a major championship. And it will be fascinating to see, with all the opportunities, how that develops. McDowell said yesterday that his dream was to win one major, and probably was satisfied with that. McIlroy won 1 and wants to get to 10. Tiger Woods wants to get to 18. Everybody's different. Is Shane happy with this now? Does he go, actually, do you know what? And this could easily happen over the next 6 months. He can never admit it. but he's just won the Open Championship on Ireland. Nothing he ever does will top this. Nothing he ever does. Like, winning the Masters, would all these things will be incredible, but nothing will ever top this. And so does he kick on, or does he go on and have a very nice next 10 years?
Yeah. Well, the question on everybody's lips is, what will ever top this for you, Nathan? Because you've seen Robbie Brady's goal, you were there that night. You've seen Shane Lowry win the All-Ireland. Would Mayo winning the All-Ireland top that for you?
Yes.
Well, that's okay. That's pretty much said.
I don't think it would top it for people outside of Mayo.
Yeah.
But being there for Mayo winning the All-Ireland, come on, Owen.
That was just
because you win All-Irelands every second year, you know. Still means something to some people.
Just a very smooth segue into our GAA chat. Before we let you go, like, I know you haven't seen much of it, but like the feeling, say if we gave you the information that Mayo didn't look at it for a good bit of it, but then knuckled down, finished the game very strongly, and looking good, Nick. Are you confident of Donegal coming to Castlebar? Are you like the Mayo Mafia is back on track?
Mayo don't like playing in Castlebar. They don't have a particularly good record in Castlebar, but this group's addiction to drama, you just feel with a minute left going into injury time, there'll be a point in it.
Of course there will.
Either way. Yeah. And God knows, from everything you read about the Donegal-Kerry match, it was one of the great matches of the last decade or so. Donegal look to be at a level above where Mayo are right now, but they have a habit of, if they need to bring the teams down to their level, they will. And I think James Horan, from where they were after the Roscommon defeat, if you were to say, you need to win at home. Obviously, the price for that is probably going to be Dublin. But
still, yeah.
Donegal, Dublin, Kerry to win the All-Ireland, you take it. That would be special, though. Now that you bring it up, that would be a special moment.
It really would be. Getting hammered by 10 points and then still going on to win an All-Ireland would be special. We are going to get stuck into Kerry Donegal in just a moment, but we've got to talk about tomorrow's Specsavers Power Rankings every Tuesday here on OTBAM, with thanks to Specsavers. Meath up or down tomorrow, Anthony?
Oh, up, Owen.
Up.
Absolutely.
They're not the, what is it, 11th best team in the country anymore?
Is that where you have them?
I think so. Is it 11 or 12?
Yeah.
11th.
You've been getting plenty of stick, I know, recently. I think up. Yeah, I think up. And we can get through the pros and cons of that.
Yeah, we'll get stuck into that very shortly. It is the Specsavers Power Rankings tomorrow morning at OTBAM. Nathan, thanks a million for popping in this morning.
Cheers.
Great work all weekend.
Pleasure.
Anthony and Enda McGinley getting stuck into the Super 8s next.
Join Bruce Betting now for a risk-free first bet up to €100. That's right. New Irish accounts can enjoy a risk-free first bet up to €100. So if your first bet loses, we'll refund your stake with a free bet. Now that's giving you more. Bruce Betting. In store, online, and now on your phone. T's and C's apply. Please gamble responsibly. See dunlewy.net.
Let's face it, the Irish summer has serious commitment issues. It's always late, disappears for weeks at a time, and consistently breaks its promises. But not us. At Electric Ireland, we're committed to giving you an 8.5% saving on your gas and electricity year after year after year after year. Visit electricireland.ie/join for the kind of commitment you deserve.
Estimated annual bill €1,736. Average consumption, urban 24-hour, discounted unit rate, standing charge, PSO levy and carbon tax. Residential, dual fuel, direct debit and online billing. Terms and conditions apply. See electricireland.ie/EAB. Rates at 1st of April 2019, subject to change.
Dublin. Can any of the teams left, we have Kerry, Mayo possibly, who knows there, Donegal, who knows, Tyrone. If it comes to All-Ireland semi-final or final stage, can you see any of those teams beating the juggernaut that is Dublin, going for 5 in a row?
No. The very short answer, I wasn't going to leave you hanging like that, but
you wouldn't be the first man to do it.
No, I think that the two teams we saw today will give Dublin the biggest challenge, even though it was maybe Mayo in the past that have done that. I'm not sure if Mayo have the energy levels to be able to get to that level to really push them. I think there's something about Dublin, they're maybe even improving. That's the scary thing about it. I think that Kerry are more athletic than they were in other years, so they'll give them a better game. I think if Donegal the only thing I can see happening is Michael Murphy goes ballistic and even plays better than he does today. Dublin have a bit of a knock, and that is maybe one way where I see Dublin getting beaten, but I don't expect it.
Billy Joe Patton there in conversation with Mór Trasny Cheallaigh at Croke Park at the weekend. We'll start with Kerry versus Donegal. Anthony, game of the summer so far?
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. For quality, for going right down to the wire, for just effort, for everything, had a bit of everything, had needle, had some unbelievable scores, had some unbelievable individual performances by players. Like Murphy was absolutely imperious yesterday, so was McHugh. Like McHugh was just absolutely everywhere, and for the two of them, I felt McBrearty was really good too. But you know, the three make a massive difference to a team that was shorn of a lot of experience yesterday and really had to go into their reserves, and probably more so than Kerry, even though Kerry were into the reserves as well. You know, with Moran being out, etc., etc. I think Donegal really had to dig deep, and those guys stood up when they needed to. It was just an absolutely phenomenal game.
We were going through the Kerry players after the game yesterday, and we could only pick one, maybe two players that were subpar for Kerry. It was a really, really good performance on an individual level, and yes, you look at Michael Murphy's performance, you look at McHugh's performance, you look at McBrearty's performance, all outstanding. There was something about Kerry yesterday that no matter what they tried to do, the three of them would all be unbelievable.
Yeah, and there was, like, that is the difference. You know, like I was thinking about it last night. The Super 8s have shown that there are some really, really top players, all-star material in nearly every team.
Yeah.
But then the best team of them all, Dublin, have the most of them. And that's just the simple facts. You know, you've 7, 8, 9 of them nearly on that team. You've Donegal, you've 4 to 5. Say you've shown yesterday, Kerry, you've 4 to 5, 3 to 4 yesterday. You know, and as you go through, you've got a certain amount. Tyrone maybe have 2 or 3. But on certain days, like you take the Tyrone Cork game, Matty Donnelly doesn't show up. He's kind of fluting around the first half like the rest of the team. But then second half, he gets obviously a right kick in the backside at half time. He goes in full forward and he just kind of runs the show. He starts taking on the Cork defence on his own and turns the game around for them. Petey Hart does the same, McShane does the same. They just started to get... So when those big players stand up and show up, they're still head and shoulders above the rest of the fellas. And you know, Donegal losing the likes of Owen Gallagher, Paddy McGrath, you're losing lots of players who are of that ilk. I have to say, when I saw it going on, I said Kerry will pull away here, but they just couldn't get away from them. They just couldn't get away. Like I thought after Guinea's goal, I said, okay, you know, that kind of came out of nothing, and it was a real hammer blow for Donegal. 3 men stopped, and they kind of looked, and Guinea was up and gone, stuck it in the back of the net. But Donegal, to be fair, Murphy again just went out and just took control of the game.
Why was that? Why did that manifest itself? And because it's the second week in a row that he's been able to do that. Meath obviously fell victim to Michael Murphy putting the team on his back the previous week. He's
like a conductor of an orchestra, to be fair. He just dictates the tempo of the game. You know, he comes out from full forward at times. He knows exactly where McBrearty wants the ball. When he gets that ball, he gets his head up, he comes around on the loop. They feed him the ball so well, they protect him so well, and then they just feed him the ball. He gets the head up and he just pings these beautiful passes that are always just on the right side of McBrearty. He wins them, or Brennan, to be fair. He just dictates it. He knows when to slow it down, when to come back, when to recycle it. He knows when to put a bit of an injection of pace in. He knows when to put a long ball in. He knows when to run out of defence. His game management himself is just fantastic. But even before that, you know, he gets a couple of scores when they need them, and then even at the last free, like I was in no doubt that he was going to stick that free over.
Yeah.
You know, absolutely no doubt. You know, some fellas stand up, 75 minutes gone. He's after putting in a major shift. He didn't get fouled for it, but then he just stands up and does it. But
seemed like a gimme.
Seemed like a gimme. But I have to say, they like Gallen before, you know, scores a point off his right. You know, when he comes on, only a young lad, 19 years of age, but then sticks an absolute beauty with his left. Remember, he stepped inside, the Kerry player slipped, and there's another Kerry player coming, and just like a beautiful, beautiful score at a vital time when Kerry had really pushed on. And, you know, the Donegal players, you can see how much they have developed that squad. You know, you need depth, and we were talking about this a number of weeks ago. The Super 8s are all about depth in the squad. Like if you started, I'd say if you looked at the first 15 from the start of the Super 8s, or even the Ulster final for Donegal, and then you looked at the 15 who finished yesterday, there's a massive change.
Yeah.
Massive change.
And that's hugely encouraging, and I know we've got Enda McGinley on the line now as well. Good morning to you, Enda.
Morning all.
So just on that point about the kind of thinning down of the squad of both squads, but I think it's fair to say that Donegal really were a little bit thinner come the end of yesterday's game. That has to be a hugely encouraging sign for them, because many people thought Kerry had the game won at a couple of points yesterday, but yet Donegal, with a lot of men down, come roaring back into a place where they almost could have won it.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you go back to, say, Donegal's squad of sort of 4 or 5 years ago, the one that had won All Ireland, and an awful lot of seasoned campaigners in it. Yesterday's squad was almost completely different. You had the 4 or 5 sort of remaining key men. But yeah, completely different. So for Donegal, they had a brilliant batch of under-21s, and they are coming through in force. They got hammered in an Ulster final a couple of years ago by Tyrone. And I remember a lot of conclusions were drawn after that these boys actually weren't as good as what they were being made out to be. Simply, they were young, and they've taken a couple of years. The Division 2 campaign, where they were stripped of several players early on in the campaign, and they were okay. Now they ended up obviously getting promotion, but that Division 2 campaign, the fact that they were without quite a few seasoned players, has really come back to strengthen them now, because you've had an awful lot of young players get much more game time, and as Anthony was saying, in the Super 8s, you're exposed to that, and if things take a certain course, like obviously the unluckiness of losing Owen Ban Gallagher, having lost Patrick McBrearty at a critical time last year, they've lost Ban Gallagher this year, is massive. That's a huge blow. But to see all them young boys now coming in and play with that sort of confidence in a game as tight and as tense as what yesterday's was, is hugely encouraging for Donegal, not just for this year, but for the years to come, because of the age profile of them players.
Anthony, you were saying last week that Donegal have a slight issue down the centre of their defence at 3 and at 6. Do you still maintain that on the evidence of yesterday?
Yeah, I do. I think Kerry got a bit of joy out of that again. When they were coming down the wings, they were obviously trying to Donegal were trying to push them out wide, which they were doing. They were coming down, but then they were cutting in very directly towards that 6th position and trying to come right down at the centre of defence with some slick hand passing. Meath did it to Donegal as well, where they kind of had fellas off the shoulder. It was just quick hand passing, 2-3 fellas coming at pace. And Kerry did expose that a little bit again yesterday. It's an issue for them, because again, as you're delving deeper and deeper and deeper into the squad, you're kind of saying, well, who have we got to kind of fill that gap? And that was tough for them. I think they put Eamon Doherty in there at one stage. He got taken off. They struggle to kind of fill that area. And actually Murphy, to be fair, does a lot of where he backs up into that area and he kind of mans the position. If you remember, it's the similar type of thing that McGee used to do for them, where he mans that central position and he doesn't get pulled left and right. He kind of holds that centre and says, well, listen, you have to come by me first. And it's a deterrent. But when he's caught up the field a bit and it's a fast break, he's not there, and that's the kind of time you can get a bit of joy out of it. Like as Enda said, the guys who stepped up yesterday for them, like Gallen was unbelievable, but Langan was I thought was absolutely, like, he kicked one score there, an unbelievably vital score off his right foot, where Donegal didn't seem to be going anywhere. He popped the pass out to him, he just stuck it over with his right foot at a vital time. Murphy
put
standing
them one up,
behind.
I think.
Yeah, and it was just, I thought it can't be said enough about them that, and that is a massive point about that under-21 squad. A lot of times you have a very successful under-21 squad and you only might get 2 or 3 fellas off it. These guys are all, not only are they individually good, but they're playing in their system. They know exactly what to do, and they're also giving it absolutely everything. And when they come on the field, it's like they've been there for years. They come on, they make the right decisions with the ball. They're not trying anything flash themselves. Like, the efficiency rate yesterday from both teams was phenomenal. The right guy in the right position taking the right shot. Compared to the first game, Meath and Mayo, where there wasn't that, or even the games in the previous day. So that's a massive test, or it's a massive thing to stand for Donegal.
Yeah, it certainly is. And when it comes to Kerry yesterday, I do wonder, have more question marks been raised in terms of, I don't know, the maturity of this team or the hard edge to this team? I mean, they were getting bullied a little bit perhaps off the ball in the forwards. Should other Kerry players be stepping up and kind of putting Donegal back in their place? There was another situation as well, like late in the game, like you mentioned that Michael Murphy free, Anthony. I thought Kerry should have fouled Donegal out near the sideline when there was a far tougher free available. Instead they allowed Donegal to get central and get a much easier free. Is that edge and that kind of maturity and that wherewithal still a bit of a question mark around Kerry?
I'm not so sure. Like, yesterday you had 2 really high quality teams. and neither really blinked or sort of took a step back. Both dished out a lot physically. Clifford certainly had a quieter day yesterday. He was very tightly marked and then took huge attention. But the benefits of having a top forward like that means that there's a wee bit more space. And McGeaney obviously took out then yesterday. They have enough leaders. I suppose the biggest question marks with Kerry was the new leaders that obviously lost more. Yet Stephen O'Brien is putting in a season just game after game where he's standing up. Gainey's back now standing up. Clifford has stood up in the past. So in the forward, Sean O'Shea obviously. So in the forward line, they're well looked after. It's defence that have been probably more impressed than anything. Donegal have a serious forward line, and yes, they still put up a huge score yesterday. But Kerry went on a straight man-to-man, and looking ahead, like for both of these teams, the team that has to be attempted to be kept tabs with is Dublin. These two teams appear probably the closest at the minute. Yesterday they played both in a style that everybody sort of feels is the only way that you can stand a chance against Dublin realistically, and that's the man-to-man thing, the same way as Mayo took them on in them famous finals a couple of years ago. Both teams went man-to-man yesterday, and for me, Kerry's defence, which was the big question mark, I think they stood up relatively well. They kept really tight tabs to them. Yes, it was physical. You could question some of the refereeing, to be honest. But given everything that went on in that game, I wouldn't have them question marks over them. I think you can always try to be a bit smarter. In hindsight, to be fair, I thought that last Donegal free, I don't think that. I think only if he went to ground and sort of played for the free. I don't think it was a free. It was a loose arm tackle by Gainey, but the ball was there to be tried to be hit at. So it was dubious enough one, but it was given, and a referee, like the traditional thing for a GA referee is if there's a point in it and late on and there's a chance of giving a free, they're going to give a free. So certainly maybe Donegal could have fouled them further out, but it's hard to say that or Kerry could have fouled them further out, but I would have still thought that Donegal would have had enough about them to work a chance and work a free anywhere within, and let's be realistic, it's anywhere within 50 metres, so it'd be a tough ask for Kerry not to give one away whenever the referee is half looking to give one.
If Dublin are looking at Kerry or Donegal, we'll get into Mayo in just a minute, but say Donegal go to Castlebar and win, is Jim Gavin picking Kerry or Donegal at this point as an easier route to the final?
I think there's, as yesterday's match show, I think there is very little between them two teams. I think there's much more similarities than differences. To me, the way that Kerry defence has played, I did have question marks, same as Hannah, I did have question marks about that Donegal defence. They done well, but they played it on the line and probably well beyond the line yesterday, at times, particularly in their man-on-man treatment of certain forwards. So for me, I think the Kerry defence, going on what we've seen so far, might be ahead of where the Donegal defence is. But other than that, I think both forward lines have massive talent. Jamie Brennan was kept much quieter yesterday, who's been Donegal's key man. Clifford was kept much quieter yesterday. He's been Kerry's key man, yet other men stood up. So I think both teams have the pace and the intensity and the fitness, and that's what you've seen with both Meath and Cork, the two other teams of this weekend, that when they're going well, they can live with the top teams for a while, but in the last 10-15 minutes, the top teams just push on and burst away, both because of the physical conditioning and also because of that just mental strength that they keep going, and when the wee mistakes start to happen in other teams, they don't in the top teams. Dublin is another level up again, but Kerry and Donegal, for me, are a very similar thing in terms of their conditioning, their mental strength, and their game playing ability, and also the match winners that they have up front.
Anthony, what Mayo should we be looking into yesterday? Is it the Mayo that played for 60 minutes or the Mayo that finished the game very strongly?
It's hard to know, Owen, it really is, because watched the game twice, and Meath had them in serious bother. They had them in serious bother, and I thought Meath controlled the game well. They took the sting out of the game. Like the Mayo went, I think, 2 or 3 up at one stage, 7-5, I think it was, and Meath got the next number of scores to go up, I think 8-7. They had them in serious bother. They turned them over well at a vital time, at around about 57, 58 minutes. Meath had about 4 chances. They had 2 frees. They had another really bad wide. They had two pretty poor wides. They could have had 4 points, and instead they missed all 4. And Mayo got the next 3 scores. So it went from a situation, I think it was 11-10, where it then went 13-11. Then it went 14-11, and then they got the goal. I think or 15-11. Then they got the goal, and then it was a game over.
Yeah.
So it was game over in about 5-6 minutes. And it was a period of time, just as Enda says, where, I've thought about this. Is it conditioning? Is it making decisions under pressure? Is it those real championship moments? Because even yesterday, if you analyse the Kerry and Donegal game, at around 60-odd minutes, both teams were pretty much level. And you could sense that this next 5 or 6 minutes were going to come in. Because it seems long, 10 minutes and even 4 or 5 minutes extra time. But there's probably only 3 or 4 scoring opportunities per team. And what I sense even from both Kerry and Donegal, they just managed the time a bit better. They took the sting out of it. They went. Whereas Meath at that time, it was all kind of hell for leather, and was all kind of all guts, no glory type thing. And when they didn't get the scores, they were exposed a bit at the back. Right. And for a defence that did really, really well, again, one-on-one against the Mayo forwards, Mayo brought in Andy Moran, and Andy just got away, and he just made the right decisions at the right time. And his performance, people will say, he's an experienced player, but what he brought to them was he brought a focal point for them up front, and he won practically every ball that went into him.
And he was quietly very good against Kerry as well, which because it was in garbage time, as they call it. But
that
his form is very important.
Yeah, and that garbage time is what won them the game yesterday, because they managed that garbage time a whole lot better than Meath did. Meath didn't have an Andy Moran to bring in and bring off the bench, a guy who could grab the ball, who was fresh, who could ask questions of a defence, maybe get a foul. Like he did a beautiful dummy solo, stuck it over the bar, but for the goal he caught the kick out. So he did a lot of things, and Meath will learn. The same with Cork. We'll get into that game in a minute, but Cork had opportunities in that second half. They had 2 or 3 goal opportunities. Early on in the second half, even when Tyrone got theirs, they had one even later on, and they kept in touch. But again, a bit of game management, conditioning. Massive. The conditioning is a massive thing, and the ability of those teams, the top teams, the top 4, say, to really keep going at a massively high level, keep concentration levels high, and know who has to get the ball in those times. Like, you look at probably the fellas who get most of the scores at the end of those games are the fellas you want to have on the ball, and the guys who can rely on putting the ball over the bar.
And let's talk briefly about Cork against Tyrone, because that second half performance from Tyrone really was sublime, especially when you look at Colin McShane and Matty Donnelly inside. Was there a sense that perhaps Mickey Hart just didn't want to show his hand at this juncture, that he thought that perhaps it'd be better to not play Donnelly and McShane inside there and save him for perhaps bigger occasions coming down the line?
Possibly Mickey might have been thinking that. I'm not so sure. I think his hand was forced yesterday. He had to do something different because it was so poor in the first half. Cork were completely dictating the game. Tyrone looked half interested. They looked like a group of players that maybe already were thinking about the All-Ireland semi-final, even though the 2 games to go, and they were all at sea. And whenever Tyrone isn't a Dublin, whenever they slip down a gear or 2, they're highly vulnerable, and they showed that in the first half. Cork, similar to me, they're emerging from the Super 8s with a huge amount of credit. I think a lot of people had them written off, following and understandably so, following the league campaign, but they have put together a string of really good performances now. They are getting a huge amount out of their attacking play, which has been very difficult for teams to stop, and Tyrone were caught off guard with it. Absolutely, Colin Cannon was rendered next to useless in his normal sweeper position, so that element wasn't working. There was the players centre half forward and the midfielders were getting a huge amount of ball for Cork around the middle, and so Mickey's hand was forced. You were chasing the game, you were well down at half time, and so you have to go with your big guns. He went with Matty Donnelly up front along with McShane. He'd done that in the league. It worked sometimes, it didn't work others. On Saturday it worked an absolute storm, but the primary reason why it worked was Matty Donnelly just showed massive leadership. He dragged Tyrone back into that game, ably assisted by the likes of McShane, by the likes of Petey Hart, but Matty Donnelly sort of through sheer force of will during moments of that second half, sort of give Tyrone the foothold in the game that they needed. And similar to Mayo, they punished Cork really, really hard in a very short phase of time, and in that won the game.
Listen, and we're going to have to let you go. Thanks a million for taking the call this morning.
All right.
We've got plenty more GA analysis from Anthony coming in just a moment. We do want to get to our Midland Supremo, Will O'Callaghan, very shortly, though. We'll take a quick break.
From the barn, let the blacksmith sing his rebel song, let the poacher tell his yarn. Come to us, my friends and neighbours, fill your glasses to the brim. We toast our awfully heroes from the heather, hill and plain. We toast our awfully heroes from the heather, hill and plain.
What are we looking at here, Will O'Callaghan?
I think we're looking at quite a few people from Shamrocks, I think it is, who are at Royal Portrush, Mucklin, not too far away from Clara. Brendan Minnick is definitely a fan of Shane Lowry and a fan of Shamrocks, and an big Offaly football and hurling fan as well. And that was him and some of his mates. I think two of them ended up on Sky Sports at some point on the 17th as well, having a chat about the fact that at that stage it was pretty clear after Lowry's birdie on 15 he was going to win, and it was the inevitability of the Claret Jug going to Clara, which I think it might have to wait until next week because Lowry's going to Memphis. I'm sure that's going to be a fun flight, but a WGC event on this week, so I'm sure Shane Lowry's not going to leave all the ranking points behind he could pick up this week.
I presume there was a few early houses in the Midlands this morning.
I imagine there was a lock-in or two that happened.
I'm surprised you're here, actually.
Yeah, look, I had to come to Dublin and be entirely professional alone. I couldn't stay back home, but it was funny. If you're not in Royal Portrush, it was lovely to be at home yesterday, because just talking to people both at Esker Hills, which would be Shane Lowry's home club, and also Baggots and Clara, who were having a massive party while the event was taking place. Everyone just seemed to have a wonderful time, and the fact that Shane had it wrapped up so early, because we all went through the gamut of emotions with Oakmont in 2016 with the US Open, where similarly when he went into that final round the feeling was Shane's going to hold his nerve here and he's going to win a major, and then as it worked out Dustin Johnson just overtook him on the final day. Some people questioned whether he would ever get back into a position to compete for a major on a final day again. I think he was sick of answering questions about Oakmont, and those ghosts are well and truly exercised now after the way he played at the weekend. I think the tournament was obviously won with the 63 on Saturday, and that made everything more relaxed yesterday. I was chatting to a few friends last night and they were saying, would have been nice if it been a little bit more dramatic on the back nine. I was like, no, absolutely not. I was more than happy with him strolling to success in the end, because a couple of bogeys around the turn, you started to worry just a little bit that maybe this might slip, but realistically Fleetwood got nowhere near him, and it was a procession down the 18th, and what a glorious procession it was. It's lovely to hear the Offaly Rover, because we have not had a huge amount of success in football or hurling in recent years after a pretty storied history, and here we are now celebrating and toasting a guy who's very much one of our own.
Yeah, some households have all the sporting glory, don't they? I mean, it's great family, great tradition. Like, it's interesting as well what Nathan was saying as well earlier on, that like 500 lads in the school all playing football, and Shane Lowry, the only fellow who's playing golf and stuff, and he was more suited to the small ball, he said.
He also played a bit of hurling as well. He was in goals in an under-12 Offaly C final, I'm told, where he was man of the match. His team didn't score in the final, but he was in goal and played so well.
This is a great tweet from Colm Keys. 2 Irish Open winners now whose fathers played in All-Ireland football finals: Paddy Harrington, Cork 1956-57, and of course Brendan Lowry, who we heard from earlier on, 81, and of course winning in 82. Some sporting symmetry there.
There was a great photo of him put up last night, sitting on his father's lap with his mom beside him. He had a wedge, he had a pair of Predator boots on.
94 off the jersey.
Yeah, and a can of lilt. Classic.
Well, like, it's one of the things, I think if Shane hadn't made the cut, he would have probably been down watching his club Clara playing his dad's club for Ban on Saturday night. That's the kind of guy that Lowry is, and I think that's one of the things that maybe draws people towards him. You go to a Leinster rugby match, Shane Lowry's probably going to be there. He's at Croke Park nearly every week when there's knockout championship on, so he's just a sports nut as well, and I think sports fans maybe identify with him a lot because of that as well. And you see the smile, you see the beard, you see the fact that, you know, Iris, his daughter, was there on the green. So much has changed for him over the last 2 years as well, and like, he spoke repeatedly about that his perspective on life and golf has changed quite a bit in the last 2 years. And it's just fantastic to see him now as a major winner, up to 17th in the world on the back of this as well. Not that money really matters when you're already as rich as Shane Lowry is, but 1.7 million in the bank. And I think the first thing he did when he got his first paycheck after turning professional, because he didn't get money for the Irish Open.
Well, his mother did.
Yeah,
he a massive bet on him in Baltray.
He gave money to his grandmother and also to his mum and dad. And like I was chatting to Brian Gavin, All-Ireland final referee, he's a good family friend of the Lowrys and would have been particularly on the same road as the Scanlons, who'd be his mother's side of the family. And like his mum and dad weren't particularly well off, and they had to do an awful lot to try and get Shane as a professional golfer. They drove him around when he was a very promising amateur. His dad, I think, when he lost his job in the ESB, started going tiling roofs and tiling bathrooms to make sure that there was enough money coming in so that Shane could achieve his dream. And like, it's great to see a guy actually get that childhood dream, because apparently when Shane Lowry was in his back garden in Clara as a kid, every putt was to win the Open Championship. Sometimes the American golfers want to win the Masters, but for Shane it was very much about winning the Claret Jug. So
that's class. I presume that is the top story this morning.
I mean, in fairness, was I going to go with anything else top of this? The Claret Jug is now the Clara Jug after Shane Lowry's victory at the Open Championship. The Offaly man is waking up as a major winner after his 6-stroke success at Royal Portrush yesterday. It followed up Saturday's round of 63, which was a record at the new revamped Portrush. A final round of 72 to finish on 15 under par. Lowry is up to 17th in the world now, and he's been outlining what he hopes to achieve next.
In the short term, I'm going to enjoy this. There's no doubt about that. But in the long term, you obviously want to back up your success. And my big goal still remains the same, and that is to be on the plane going to Western Straits next year. So it's my plan for the next 12 months. So hopefully that involves a couple of wins along the way. But like, this is huge for me. Obviously, major championship. My first season winning twice. I have a lot to play for now. I'm well up there in the FedEx Cup now, which is nice. I'm well up there in the race to Dubai, so I've got a busy few months ahead of me, and I'm very excited, but I'm really going to enjoy this first.
Elsewhere, Donegal's Michael Murphy kicked a last gasp point to secure a draw against Kerry in the Super 8s. Best game of the series so far at Croke Park. It finished 120 apiece. Both teams now well placed to reach the All-Ireland semi-finals. The Kingdom will travel to Navan to play Meath in 2 weeks' time, while Donegal must go to Castlebar to play Mayo after they beat the Royals by 9 points. Tyrone and Dublin, they secured their places in the last 4 on Saturday. Reigning champions Dublin, 226 to 14-point winners against Roscommon, while a strong second-half performance from Tyrone saw them defeat Cork by 3 points. The 2016 winners Kilkenny have booked their place in the semi-finals of the All-Ireland Camogie Championship. 423 to 113 victory against Limerick on Saturday. Limerick are into the quarters, however, after the league champions Galway's victory against Wexford. Tipperary moved into the last 8 with a 15 points to 11 success against Meath. Orla Finn scored 12 points as Cork opened their All-Ireland Ladies Football Championship campaign with a 6-19 to 3-8 rout of Cavan in Mullingar. Leanne Cohen and Roisin Leonard scored the goals yesterday as Connacht champions Galway defeated Westmeath by 2-13 to 1-3. They are also through to the knockout stages now. The 2018 intermediate champions Tyrone, they pulled off the shock of the weekend, overcoming their neighbours Donegal by 3 points, while Waterford eased to a 7-18 to 110 victory against Monaghan. Dundalk will find out their potential opponents in the third qualifying round of the Champions League later today. Vinnie Pert's men could face Celtic if they come through against the Azerbaijan champions Karabag. That draw will take place in Lyon at around 11 o'clock Irish time this morning. Afterwards, the path to the Europa League group stage will be clear. Shamrock Rovers are in the draw for the third qualifying round ahead of their second round encounter with Apollon Limassol. Rovers have closed the gap meanwhile at the top of the SSE Electricity League to 5 points. They beat UCD 7-0 at Tala, a pair of goals each for Aaron McAniff and Aaron Green. The result leaves the students at the foot of the table on goal difference. The other game yesterday was a win for Bohemians against St Pat's 3-0 in their Dublin derby. The Republic of Ireland's under-19s are into the semi-finals of the European Championships in Armenia. It was a goal from Barry Coffey, the winner for Tom Moe inside, as they beat the Czech Republic 2-1 to set up a last-four clash with the holders Portugal on Wednesday. Tottenham boss Mauricio Pochettino meanwhile says he doesn't know if the club are trying to re-sign Gareth Bale. Real Madrid manager Zinedine Zidane has told the Welsh winger he wants him to leave. Juan Mata meanwhile hopes that Manchester United teammate Paul Pogba will be staying at the club. The midfielder has been linked with a move away from Old Trafford all summer. That follows comments saying he'd be open to a new challenge. Tammy Abraham looks like he's going to be staying at Chelsea. He says he's got a great chance to establish himself in their first team under new manager Frank Lampard. The 21-year-old scored 26 goals on loan for Aston Villa in the Championship last year. And Team Ireland have finally secured 2 medals at the Under-20 European Athletics Championships in Sweden. Dara McElhenney took bronze in the 5,000 metres, only the third ever Irish male to do so at this age level. And Sarah Healy, she won silver in the 1,500 metres.
Good stuff, Will. We're getting stuck into some more of those transfer stories now for the next 7 or 8 minutes. And we're going to start with Gareth Bale this morning. It's a story that's emerged over the course of the weekend. Beijing Guoan have emerged as the front runners to sign him. So this comes as links with Manchester United, Spurs, Bayern Munich and Paris Saint-Germain have all gone cold. This is probably due to the fact that he costs like £1 million to pay per week. So would it be sad for all of us to see the Welshman leave European football at 30 years of age?
Well, I'm sad for Gareth Bale because this is a guy who has helped Real Madrid win the Champions League. This is a guy who's had a pretty good career, just if you take it purely on stats with Real and in terms of trophies won. And Zidane has had obviously no faith in him whatsoever. He joked last year, and I now wonder if it even was a joke when they played Osasuna, that if he had a fourth sub to make, he wouldn't have brought Gareth Bale on. He used 11 subs at the weekend, and Bale wasn't used, so it's a very clear message being sent out to Gareth Bale. I mean, look, Bale's in a situation whereby he's earning €17 million a year, and if you're him, you think, right, the club gave me a contract for 5 years. I'm more than entitled to stay here.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, I mean...
It goes two ways.
Yeah, I am surprised to hear you say that you feel a bit sad for somebody who's earning that amount of money. You're not, like, it's sad to see any top talent leave European football, and good luck to him and all that sort of thing. I do wonder if there is... I don't wonder. I know for a fact that deep down in Gareth Bale there is this competitor, this person who got him to the very top of the game that wants to get back and actually play top-level football. If you're not going to be granted that at Real Madrid... Sure, you're going to earn a lot more money than, say, if you go to Manchester United or any team who will give you first-team football. But what is the legacy of that? The legacy of being a lame duck in a squad and not playing whatsoever?
But why is he he's fallen out of love with him so quickly? It seems, Zidane. Like he's saying, it's nothing personal. There comes a time where things are done because they need to be done. I've not got anything against him, which smacks up. I actually do. Yeah. Like if you're really coming out and saying that, it's actually I actually do have something against him. But it's. I'd love to see him back at Spurs, but that is an absolutely outrageous salary that you'd have to fork out.
Yeah, and especially the situation at Manchester United. Manchester United are in a good position where everything's trundling along nicely. If Alexis Sanchez had gone well, they'd be like, look at this guy, we've paid him loads of money, and this is just the way football is. Yeah. Whereas they look at Alexis Sanchez now and it's like, this has been a complete disaster, and this could be a disaster again, so they're not in a position to take that sort of risk.
Well, it's the fact as well that Bale has almost exactly the same profile as Sanchez here in terms of his age profile, in terms of the wage demands, in terms of the injuries that he's had. You'd have a lot of concerns, because one thing that Madrid fans have jeered him about, quite aside from not maybe getting into Spanish culture, is the fact that he has been injured so often, particularly for big games for them. And you're thinking, if I'm going to be spending, even if he took a slight pay cut and you're still paying him 15 or 16 million euro a year, you want a guy who's performing every week. Yeah. And maybe once bitten, twice shy with Sanchez, where he's earning something similar. Manchester United have finally agreed terms on signing Leicester City and England defender Harry Maguire. £80 million is going to be the fee, according to the Independent and Bleacher Report. So we expect this to be confirmed in the coming day, lads. Is it a good idea? Are Manchester United getting ripped off here is the question. Yes. But at the same time, they need a defender. They need probably more than one central defender, realistically. Like Harry Maguire and Victor Lindelof, will they work as a pairing, given that neither are particularly quick? I know Lindelof had a good end to last season, but are they the right pairing together? Potentially not, actually. It's a good point. That's when you spend a lot of money on a defender. The logic is you will bring up the standard entirely if you have Harry Maguire there, but it's also about the styles and the combination that may be. It may not be. You might be onto something there. Well, like United are paying that premium that they always pay when they go to another English team. Would Leicester be asking for this much if they didn't know the way the market is at the moment, and they know that Man United probably have money to burn as well? Like if Crystal Palace can get 50 million for Aaron Wan-Bissaka, who's not even a full international yet, I'd be thinking, right, Harry Maguire is a key player for England. He's still young enough and has got plenty of time left. I'd be taking them for every penny I could. Yeah. So Bayern Munich have emerged as a surprise candidate to sign Crystal Palace's Wilfried Zaha after failing to land Leroy Sané. So it seems Sané's not going to go there. Everton are also being linked with a move for the striker. Arsenal, of course, have offered £40 million for him. If Munich are interested, where does he go and how much does he sell for? Does he want to go to Arsenal? Does he not? Does he want to leave the Premier League? Ultimately, it'll come down to how much Bayern Munich offer, I presume. Yeah, but I suppose he's living in London. Would he want to make the difference, make that change? If Bayern want him to go after him, he's a good talent. He is a good talent. What age is he? He's 26. Yeah, so he's plenty left in him. Yeah, I think if Bayern want, they go get. Good Irish news this morning, and sticking with Palace, Sky Sports report they've tabled an £8 million bid for James McCarthy. Newcastle are also reported to be interested. Crystal Palace would be a good move for James McCarthy, wouldn't it? I'm surprised Crystal Palace are in for James McCarthy. It'd be a fantastic move, because Cardiff were fairly heavily linked with him last week. I mean, James McCarthy needs to just get fit and needs to get games, even just from an Irish perspective. Need him playing ahead of some crucial qualifiers coming up in the autumn. So I'm hoping wherever he goes, he's getting football. But Crystal Palace would be a magic move for him, because he's been injured for 2 years now. Yeah, what was his injury? Has it just been constant one injury for the last basically 2 years? Or is he just repeatedly breaking down?
it's certainly been a repeated breakdown throughout his career, but I think the last 2 years has been the one injury, hasn't it? It's been, I'm not quite sure of the entire recent past of his injury troubles, but like you do kind of feel for him in terms of that he has been stunted so much by his injuries.
So much football.
And it's really, really frustrating. We do have your beloved Spurs in the news this morning, Anthony. They're reported to be close to keeping Eriksen on a 200 grand a week deal. So the question here is this a coup for Spurs, or is he just there because Hazard has gone to Madrid?
Yeah, I think he's needed, but he's only needed if he wants to stay at the same time. But he was on a pretty, his contract up to this point was pretty shabby. So 200k a week, is he worth that? He probably is. I think he's a specific type of player that is very, very hard to find, and he plays a specific role for Spurs, which they badly need. And they badly need, especially when they start losing strikers, which they showed at the end of the season last year. Like, he filled in there fairly well. I think his importance to Spurs, though, will lessen this year, which is strange that they're obviously going to up his remuneration, but I think it will with the players that they're bringing in around him. But I think it'll maybe take a bit of pressure off him a bit more, because I think they always look to him to come up with the big moments, especially when Kane was out.
I think Eriksen's chances are, Moan, in terms of when he put his comments out at the start of the summer. He kind of said, look, I'm very open to leaving the club. I've only got a year left in the contract, but if Spurs were to give me the money I need, I would stay, maybe reluctantly. And like Barcelona, Real Madrid don't have the money to. They're obviously in a massive squad overhaul in both cases and spending big money already, so neither of them were likely to be moved, and I couldn't see Spurs selling him to someone else in the Premier League. So the
it's good ambition by Spurs.
Yeah,
and they need to start showing that.
Is it been a good window or a bad window from Spurs? Because
I think it's been good.
Nathan was saying last week that perhaps the full-back positions, they've clearly lost a couple of players there. We don't know what Danny Rose might do. Trippier's obviously gone to Atletico Madrid.
I think Rose was pulling a bit of an Eriksen one though as well. I think he was kind of saying, listen, I will go, but and I think Rose played really, really well at the end of last season. Like, I think he was light years ahead of anyone else. Like Trippier, I think I was happy enough to see him go, to be honest with you. I didn't think he was, I thought he was actually pretty poor near the end of the season last year, and he seemed nearly kind of disinterested. He was lacking in a few games. Do you remember? Was it the final where he just didn't chase back? He got caught in possession, turned, didn't bother.
Really, since the World Cup, he just kind of left his phone behind.
He actually has been. Yeah, I think it's been decent for them. Probably maybe one or two more. But they've like where you probably would have been worried at the start of the window, saying they may actually do their usual and sell off everyone and get no one in. They actually haven't.
New Newcastle boss Steve Bruce, he's interested in bringing Andy Carroll back to St James's Park. Could the 30-year-old free agent make an impact there, or has his time passed?
His time has passed, but Newcastle need a striker desperately because they've lost both of their top scorers from last season. Jose Perez gone to Leicester, and China-bound Rondon, who I think a lot of Newcastle fans were hoping they would keep after he scored 12 goals from last season. At this stage, I say beggars can't be choosers. If you're a Newcastle fan, probably just get a striker in, but there's no way Andy Carroll stays fit. There's no way Andy Carroll scores enough goals. I don't think there's any way he's going to be welcome back either. I don't think he left in a particularly good way when he went to West Ham. Went to Liverpool even before he went to West Ham. It's pretty grim if you're a Newcastle fan and you're relying on Andy Carroll to get the goals.
And then last one very quickly before we go. Fresh reports that De Gea will sign a mega deal to stay at Old Trafford. So regardless of what else happens here, this is a good news story for Manchester United, or is it back to the old money thing that you look at the figure and say, well, that provides an automatic question mark?
Well, money isn't going to stop goals going in. David De Gea probably will. I think his motivation maybe dropped a little bit over last season. It's the first kind of iffy season he's had since he went to Old Trafford. Considering he's been there since 2011. Like, he's been remarkable. Won their Player of the Year 4 different times. If you're a United fan, you don't care how much David De Gea gets paid. It's probably too little given what he has to face.
Yeah, exactly.
That concludes our transfer talk this morning. Will O'Callaghan, thanks a million, and up the Midlands. We'll chat to you again later on. We are turning our attention now to the Ireland under-19s, and I'm delighted to say that Tom Owen joins us live in the line. Good morning to you, Tom.
Morning, Owen.
So the campaign so far has been an interesting one. First game, the 1-1 draw with Norway, lost to France 1-0 in the second game, and then the 2-1 win against Czech Republic. I presume mission accomplished is putting it lightly, Tom.
Well, there's still more to come. Can't just rest on that. We have a semi-final ahead of us, but we're in a very good place this morning, and delighted with the performance of the players last night, Owen.
What's the main thing that underpins that delight? What is the main thing that brings you satisfaction after those first few games?
We've come up against three different styles of opponents, basically, and the boys have matched themselves well in each game, and they've adapted to the different systems and styles of each of the opponents. And obviously the first game against Norway was so important to get a point on the board after being 1-0 down. It's the next best thing to a victory when you come back, to draw the game. France was a completely different experience. They dominated possession. They're a fantastic side, and we had to be very well organised. And our players, in fairness, they showed, as well as showing great heart and spirit, they showed great game intelligence. And for long periods we frustrated France, and they were pumping long balls into the box, and we were dealing comfortably, and they done us just near the end, and it was disappointing to take, but they bounced back very quickly, and we look forward to the Czech Republic game. And come here, the boys, when we were under the cosh last night, the thing that really impressed me was the courage for the players to get on the ball, and instead of just clearing our lines, players were showing for it, wanted to take responsibility, and I think our second goal reflected that.
Yeah, you talk about coming up against three different styles and the way they've adapted to those three different styles, your team. Is that something that you've pre-prepared for every game, or are they going out and actually feeling their way into a game and actually working the opposition out mid-game?
Yeah, well, it's, that comes within our structures within the FAI as well, led by Rude Doctor, or, high performance director, and all our underage international managers, and, Niall Harrison as well, over Emerging Talent Programme. We have regular meetings, and we all bring our own experiences back to international managers meetings, and indeed what, Stephen Kenny and Mick McCarthy attend also, and all our managers from Jason Donoghue, Paul Ozam, Colin O'Brien, Andy Reid, myself, and we keep bouncing things of each other on how different countries are playing, and how we got to adapt. And I think it's very, very important that we have that ability to adapt. And thankfully, we're given a group of lads who have come through from different underage international teams and have had great experiences in underage international football, and that stands to them when they get to these tournaments.
That sounds really encouraging, Tom, that there is that dialogue between different coaches within the FAI, that you're not stuck to your own devices, as well as your own devices must be. It's always good to have kind of external influences, chat to other managers and get their experience as well.
Without a doubt, and obviously, our own coaching staff here too are fantastic. With Mick Neville, Mick's one of the most decorated players who's ever played in the League of Ireland. Darren O'Neill, one of the greatest goalkeepers in the league. Colin Healy, with fantastic experience of being a young player across the water, and he can relate so well to the players as well. And come here, it's a matter of everybody having an input, and from your own point of view, you got to be open, you got to listen, and ultimately I've got to make the decisions.
You mentioned the game intelligence of your players there a while ago. Is that something that you've actively tried to teach, or is it something that you can't really teach?
Nah, it's something you can teach. There's no doubt about it. Because the modern game, there's so many different trends and systems and styles, and you got to look at the strengths and weaknesses of opponents. And our analyst team of Martin Doyle and Mickey Feeney and Mark Scanlon, but massive work in too, and have so much ready for us right after games, on our own games, and also in the opposition as well. So the tactical side of the game it's massive, and it's so important that players are receptive to the information. And these group of players, indeed like all the players we've had this season, have been very, very receptive to the information. But it's ultimately that the players going out onto the pitch and delivering under pressure, and that's what has been really pleasing.
Yeah, there must be a structure in place there, though, for them to really thrive, because I think it's 11 key players that are missing from the squad at the moment. There must be something there on a foundation level where no matter who the players are, they can get the best out of themselves in this current setup.
Yeah, I was just, we've used well over 30 players this year, in our qualifying phase, elite phase, and in the finals. And obviously, it's something that we work on a lot, with team meetings, pre-training meetings, post-training meetings, analysing training, and also analysing the games. And as I say, we've got a lot of work to do on the opposition too, and it tests us all, but it's good.
And are all the players in those meetings, is it kind of a lot of one-to-one talk? Is it kind of you at the top of the projector for 10-15 minutes, or how do those meetings work?
Yeah, well, our team meetings, pre-training, obviously, we'll explain what our training session is going to be. We'll go through it on the tactical board with the players. We'll show clips of the opposition. We'll show clips of ourselves. We go out, deliver the training session, and after training, then we get the players to, they have to present as well, to show an understanding of the learnings, from the training session, and that's important as well, that they can come back with the feedback and any areas or issues or concerns they have, that they bring them up, and that we're both crystal clear on the roles of the players.
Right, so it's a two-way street. It's not by any means the coach telling the players how to play. They have a lot of input as well.
Yeah, it's we try to create that open learning environment, and also in the one-on-one meetings, some fellas obviously may not be that comfortable, speaking out in the group, but we also have the individual meetings as well, and we'll give our honest feedback to the players. They'll give their honest feedback to us, and that's very, very important. How harsh can the honest feedback be? I think once you're honest, you're never harsh, and that's the reality. And come here, it works both ways. And these fellas are a good mentality, they take it on board and they move on. And you take Barry Coffey last night, for example. Barry hadn't played, probably much in her two previous games, come off the bench against the French, and he responded last night. So it's the importance of the squad members. They've been really, really good. And some lads haven't got playing yet, and that's difficult on them. But they're still tuned in. They're training really, really well, and they're that can be a very powerful tool as well. The squad and those group players that just haven't maybe played yet, but the door's starting to open for them now. What sort of challenge, what particular style is Portugal going to bring on Wednesday night? At Portugal, they're a very expansive team. They play a 4-3-3, two attacking midfield players. The pace up front, full-backs will get forward. They'll try to dominate possession, and typical Portugal team. We played Portugal over the last 2 years. Last year we played the Portuguese team that went on to win the European Championships, and they were a fantastic side. Fella Jedson Fernandes played for Benfica in the Champions League, and this team will be no different. They're producing a lot of high quality players. So we're expecting it'll be a really difficult game, but we've got to be well organised, and we've got to keep possession of the ball too as well. We've got to go and play and continue on and from last night. Well, it's been a great campaign so far, Tom, and the very best of luck on Wednesday. Chat to you soon. Thanks, Owen. Thank you. Cheers. Tom Mohan there, manager of the Ireland Under-19s. In action, as I say, in Armenia against Portugal on Wednesday. It is a semi-final. We are cutting back to Belfast next to chat to get some more reaction to Shane Lowry's wonderful open win. It'll be John Duggan on the line. Before that, here's Graham McDowell.
You never really doubted it, did you? Exclamation mark. That's all it is. It's been a dream week on so many levels. Execution, course. I was going to say weather. Can we say weather? I think we can say weather because I think the players got everything. They got sunshine. They got flat calm. They got a bit of breeze out different directions, and then they got a little Portrush Armageddon. It's he's won it, and he's won it the right way. It's special. I think he won it with short game. I think some of the pitches he hit today, some of the chips, he looked like he hit a great chip on 5. He looks like he great bunker shot on 13. That's who he is. His short game, I put it up there with the best in the world. Phil might be the only guy I've ever seen that even comes close to this guy's short game. Now, I play a lot of practice runs with him, and I always laugh and giggle to myself because he throws balls down on the fringe and he just stands there with his lobber all day. I'm like, what's this guy doing? Well, I found out this weekend what he's doing. He's preparing himself for when he needs to hit that shot under pressure in the British Open, in the Open Championship, with a chance to win. He's a special competitor. I've spoke about it a few times this week. He's the most competitive person I've ever met, and he showed that fight and that determination, and it really, like I say, it really puts an exclamation mark, after the word dream. This was a dream week. The word proud just goes in front of the word Portrush, goes in front of the word Northern Ireland, Shane, the RNA, everyone involved here at Portrush, the green staff. There's a lot of prouds, and I'm going to be 40 here in 8 days. I guess I'm getting to the point in my life where I start being proud of people,
Graham McDowell there speaking about Shane Lowry's incredible win at Royal Portrush yesterday, and we are going back up one more time this morning. John Duggan, a very good morning to you.
Owen and Anthony, good morning. Happy Shane Lowry Day.
Happy Shane Lowry Day is right. This is right up there, John, in terms of great sporting moments this decade. Possibly that and Robbie Brady's goal right up there as two of the best.
Yes, I've been lucky enough to be at Rutger Hauer in Blade Runner, this movie from the early 80s, said, I've seen things you people wouldn't believe. And I've been lucky enough in life to see things you people wouldn't believe in sport, from World Cups to Olympics and all that kind of thing. And this is right up there. This is so huge. an Irishman winning an Open Championship on the island of Ireland after 68 years, that it was coming to Portrush in itself was a significant story, and that Shane Lowry from County Offaly would win in County Antrim is in a global major and win by 6 shots. That is just off the charts, lads. Off the charts.
You were there for the weekend. You've seen these incredible scenes. Anthony comparing it to Tiger last year when he was back and everybody following him down the final fairway on the 18th last August. It was something similar yesterday. It really was the hallmarks of Tiger last summer, seeing Lowry on the island of Ireland with his home support. It was something that we'll never see again, John.
No, he won't. Well, unless it's 2024, if they're going to bring it back here. That's the whisper at Royal Portrush, and another Irishman wins it then. But there was real stadium atmosphere all week. I followed Rory around when he was trying to make the cut on Friday night, and it felt like Sunday afternoon. He was trying to make the cut, and so I've been to the 6 Opens, and the support in Scotland and England is great, but it's kind of, there's a respectful, there's not that kind of match feel about it. Whereas at Portrush over the last few days, you had that kind of stadium match feel, knee-deep, Ryder Cup, that horseshoe grandstand around the 18, 4,300 spectators in it. And on Saturday, I followed Larry for 17-18. He was just off the scale regarding his play, only missed 1 green, made that 63. And I think yesterday at 15, when that putt went in, the fist pump he knew he'd won the Open, and then he had the freedom to play 16, 17, 18 beautifully, and then the walk up and the whole emotion of his parents, his wife, his daughter, his brother, his extended friends, peers, Padraig Harrington, Graham McDowell there, management and everything. Is just, what a story, what a great story. And we can all relate to Shane Lowry. We all love him. He's just a regular guy, loves the GA, loves the crack, hasn't changed, and has confirmed the promise he showed when he won the Irish Open as an amateur Beltray a decade ago.
Yeah, Nathan earlier on was talking about Neil Manship and the constant dialogue between him and Shane and between Bo and Shane, and that is something that has clearly worked when it comes to the psychology of Shane Lowry, the relaxed nature of him. He likes to have a conversation. He doesn't like to concentrate too much on his game, and if it comes to him subconsciously, you will get the best version of Shane Lowry's golf game.
Well, I think Shane Lowry's golf game is very naturally talented. So he's a good driver of the ball. He's got beautiful hands around the greens, great chipper. And if the putts are going in, then he's really there to contend with anybody. So I think the thing with Shane Lowry, observing him over the last number of years, has been mentally sometimes he gets frustrated, and he hasn't felt he's had at home with Irish Opens. I saw him getting frustrated after an Open at St Andrews one year after his round, and that happens. Oakmont didn't go very well, but he had the talent to get into that position in the first place at Oakmont. What's happened in the last, say, year, I think perspective of having a child is great for him, but Neil Manship is a calm individual, and Bo Martin is kind of the last piece of the jigsaw that's kind of clicked into place. They had a big chat after the Masters when it didn't go well, and I think he just decided, you know what will be, will be. Que sera, sera. And we've seen that through winning at Abu Dhabi, which was before the Masters, but his performances since then. The next week he was second to Hilton Head, then he finished the top 10 of the PGA, and then he finished in third in Canada. And the last 2 majors he opened with 75. When he opened well, which he did, 67, he then gave himself the platform to contend. And what he said, I think, all week was, whereas Rory or Graham McDowell or Darren Clarke got emotional about this, Shane Lowry fed off the crowds. He thrived off the crowds. He thrived off the support, and that inspired and spurred him to play his best golf and blow them away.
What happens next for Shane Lowry? Is he the type of guy that looks at one major and says to himself, this is the thing that will drive me on? Or does he get to a sense of satisfaction with this? Because, I mean, if I won the Claret Jug, I'd pack it all in and retire into the sunset immediately. But it's interesting how this can affect the golfer in a positive way or in a way that actually just leads to pure satisfaction.
Well, the 1.7 million helps, Owen.
Yeah.
I'm sure if you had the 1.7 million, you'd have your own island in Kerry. Or Anthony, you'd have a Spurs season ticket. He'd probably be bringing me to Spurs. Look, he's a very behind the kind of carefree and cheerful and accessible exterior is a competitive dog in the fight, or the dog of the fight. Shane Lowry wants to be on that plane, he said, to Whistling Straits next year. And I think he wants to be on the plane as a qualifier. He won't get actually any points for winning the Open because they haven't started the season points again. He doesn't want to be a captain's pick. He wants to be in that Ryder Cup team. So I can't see him changing the swing or tinkering or doing this or that or getting gurus or this kind of thing or trying to win 10, 20 majors. I can just see him continuing to play great golf, with the freedom now that they can never take that name off the claret jug, and they can never take off the achievements that he's achieved on the island of Ireland. So I see big things for him. I can see him winning another major. He doesn't win that often. I think it's only his fourth or fifth win on the world tours. But he wins big. He won a world golf championship in 2015, and he just has the game to play anywhere. And he's really keen to get into the FedEx Cup Series and the race to Dubai, and I think he'll enjoy it. But I do think he will keep going, and he's only 32, remember, so I think there's a lot ahead of him the next years.
It seems like it's been a very, very positive few days as well from the prospect of the Open coming back to the island of Ireland. You've mentioned the possibility, the very real possibility of it coming back to Portrush in a short amount of time as well. We had the storyline, of course, this week, which kind of makes it all the better. But just from a pure standpoint of the event, I'm sure it all went down without a hitch, John. It seemed like an absolutely incredible event.
Well, if you're hosting big sporting events, and the Russia World Cup was an example, which I saw last year. I've been to big football matches, big football, like it'd be at Croke Park, or be the Champions League final. When you host one of these events, it takes probably years in the making. They had the dummy run here in 2012, the Irish Open, so they knew it worked then because they had to sell out then. And the Open, the infrastructure is just planted. I felt like I was at any other Open, regarding facilities. It felt exactly the same. But I do think what we saw on the Hinch and what we've seen in Portrush is towns and places like that where the course is close to. You get the whole festival feel. Now, people were coming from far and wide. I heard Dutch accents off the train, a lot of Americans here, the global coverage from NBC, Fox Australia, the Golf Channel, 600 million reach, and all the American journalists asking these questions about what does it mean, Shane, and the symbolism and all this kind of thing. I'm reading Adam Shipnuck on golf.com and writing beautifully about the whole week. So the organisation was excellent. The Northern Irish politicians, civil service, local authorities deserve a lot of credit. I was getting trains up and down from Belfast every day, and that was really, really smooth. So also 237,750 people went through the gates, the second highest in history, and only St Andrews has beaten that. Wow. So from a financial point of view, from a corporate hospitality point of view, and also the players, most importantly, loved the course. They thought the links was very fair. It wasn't necessarily a traditional links. You actually had to flight your shots in the air at times. Very well set up, great views, and great vistas. And it's going to do a lot for Irish golf lads. And that, Americans might think, we'll play in Scotland or whatever. But now we've had Lahinch, the vistas of that, the shots we had at Lahinch that great week, and then the shots at Portrush and the Causeway Coast. So, look, we've just had a golden run. We've had 10 major championships out of Ireland since 2007. We'd had 5 individuals winning majors. And it hasn't been, and 4 winners of the Open as people, but 5 Open championships, 2 for Padraig, 1 for Darren, 1 for Rory, and 1 for Shane now. Not an English winner of the Open since 1992. So we've had World Golf Championship events in Kilkenny. We had the Ryder Cup in Ireland. We're having the JP McManus Pro-Am next year. We'll probably, hopefully, have the Ryder Cup in Adair in a few years' time. Irish golf is just, once again, another example of how we punch above our weight as a sporting nation, be it Rugby World Cup, now we're going to with huge hopes, be the under-19s in the semi-finals of the Euros, or be it Katie Taylor winning world titles. So huge success, and not just me saying that because I was there, but because I felt that this was just a really good Open.
Yeah, it certainly was. That's something that Shane Lowry's touched on actually yesterday. He says, I used to curse them an awful lot in the past. He means the other Irish golfers, because that's all anybody wanted to know about in Ireland, because they were winning so many majors. When are you going to win one? People would say winning regular events wasn't good enough for anyone. And that is the sort of level that we now have in Irish golf, that unless you're a major winner, you are viewed very differently to the likes of the Rory McIlroys, to the Padraig Harringtons, to the McDowells, and now the Shane Lowrys.
Well, I suppose all of the top players have now won majors. And Paul Dunne is a European Tour winner, and he's a good player, and he led the Open as an amateur. So there's a lot ahead for Paul Dunne. He's still a young person. But what it does, I was at the Irish Open in Lahinch, speaking to Robin Dawson, who was one of the top amateurs, and he just turned professional. For the inspiration for these kind of guys, James Sugru, unlucky to miss the cut, won the British Amateur. Just the inspiration. The only disappointment that it wasn't on terrestrial television, because if it was, it would have been even better for the country. But it just shows the art of the possible, and that anybody tuning in to Off the Ball AM, watching it or listening to Off the Ball radio, if you're a young person, you can do it. If you're talented in sport, or if you want to get into any kind of field, you can achieve. Shane Lowry won the Irish Open as an amateur. He had ups and downs for the 10 years of his life on tour, but he has now scaled the summit to win the oldest golf major. So anybody can aspire to be Katie Taylor, Brian O'Driscoll, Padraig Harrington, Stephen Cluxton, Henry Shefflin, whoever you want to be. It is possible.
Yeah, it certainly is. Very nice words there. And what a great note to leave our golf coverage on this morning. John Duggan, thanks a million.
Eoin and Anthony, up Offaly. We're all Offaly fans today.
Absolutely, John.
It is 19 minutes past 9 on this Monday morning. You're watching or listening to OTBAM. It's a sports breakfast show from Off the Ball. OTBAM is sponsored by Avantcard, powered by MasterCard. We're back with some more Gaelic games straight after these.
Join Bruce Betting now for a risk-free first bet up to €100. That's right. New Irish accounts can enjoy a risk-free first bet up to €100. So if your first bet loses, we'll refund your stake with a free bet. Now that's giving you more. Bruce Betting. In store, online, and now on your phone. T's and C's apply. Please gamble responsibly. See dunlewy.net.
I don't know where to start because you had such a great start, played such great football, but to come out at the end, I think the scoreline in itself does not do you justice in how your team played. How do you feel?
Well, that's beginning to become a bit of a common thread. We just have to learn how to make the most of good situations, and we were in a good situation again there today, no more so than we were last week, and we didn't put it to bed, and that's frustrating for me, but it's hugely frustrating for the lads because they've put in a huge effort and they've made great progress. But it's Croke Park against teams like Mayo and Ballybofey against teams like Donegal. It's a pretty tough school ground, and we've hopefully we'll have learned a good few lessons.
Andy McEntee there speaking to Maura Trassa in the aftermath of Meath's defeat to Mayo yesterday. Shane Walsh, the youngster from Meath, was also speaking to Maura Trassa afterwards.
For anybody listening, they might not realise how young you are. You've a long time left, hopefully, in a Meath jersey. You only did your leaving cert a few weeks ago.
A couple of weeks ago, yeah. I turned 19, so not 18 as the reporters are saying. So 19 in April.
Very old, obviously.
And look, there's a lot of talent in underage development in Meath. We won two minor titles back to back, so as long as we keep pushing and keep driving on, that we get 3 or 4 players every year that we can really push on and move this thing forward.
Finally, I was speaking to Andy McEntee before you came out as well. It was obvious that he was very, very disappointed, but very, very proud of you all. I know the debrief is probably going to be hard. Where do you go from here?
I think we just have to prepare as best we can for the Kerry game. Look, Kerry are moving very well. I'm not sure how the game's going out there, but they're going to be a huge test for us, and we're going to step up in front of a home crowd. Hopefully the crowd will get out and make an atmosphere that we can live up to, and we'll just try to get a result, get a performance in, and we'll move on.
Sinead, thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
So Meath and Cork, it's basically done for them now in the Super 8s. They can come away with it thinking to themselves, they've come forward this year. Like, the thing is building on this and building on a place where we actually have a Super 8s competition where we have this again, where Cork and Meath are able to compete with every team. If you take Dublin out of it, that's what's happened here.
Well, if we stood back and went back to the start of it, you would have been very, very worried. I don't know who asked me the question, like, what's it going to mean for Meath in the Super 8s, and I was kind of hedging bets and saying, well, they might take a scalp and just to be competitive, and you were really hoping just for that. Coming up against Donegal in the first game, you were just saying, I just hope this isn't an annihilation type thing because of everything that had come into it, and the Dublin game, etc., etc. But and similar enough to Cork, because after the Kerry game, they'd beaten, I think, a Division 3 and a Division 4 team, whatever it was. But so there was possible ramifications for those two teams that this Super 8 experience would not be a good experience on the pitch. Yeah. But what people miss is, like, the amount of games, the amount of training sessions those two panels have done. Like, if you take Meath last year, I think Meath were gone at the end of June, very, very early last year. Remember the Tyrone game in Navan? They were gone. So that team is then gone. The panel of players go back to their clubs, and for all of that period of time, you're just back in with your club. And yes, you go back in with your county in October or November or whatever it is, but for a long period of time, you're missing from the I suppose, the day-to-day of inter-county panels. But both of those squads now have had these extra long extended team meetings, video sessions, bonding sessions, the games themselves, fellas standing up. The management team will find out different things about fellas that they watch in videos and they say, just look at that was really brave, or that wasn't good enough, or whatever it is. They'll see things in training sessions. So they'll come into, for me, obviously, Division 1 next year, a whole lot better prepared for the experience of it, whether they're winning games or not. But the fact is, they've been massively competitive, and have put themselves in the frame to win some of those games, not only Donegal, but again yesterday against Mayo. And it might be experience, it might be just a conditioning thing. I don't know what it is. I don't know whether it's hard to actually put your finger on it. As I said earlier on, there was a couple of opportunities. Shane himself, who I thought had a brilliant game when he came on, he had one free at about 52, 53 minutes that he just dropped short into Clark, remember, from the
vital time.
And then he had a really difficult free to hit, which I thought someone probably should have came short for him and taken it off him, because it was a really hard shot after the first one. Now, he kicked every single other time. I thought he was brilliant. He was dishing the ball off well to runners, and he gave a real presence in that full forward line. He's a massive talent. But, like Cork, I thought Cork had an unbelievable opportunity to take Tyrone, even when Tyrone upped the ante. And it would have been, I think it's interesting. I think you should, we'll chat to probably Enda later on in the week. Tyrone, for me, sometimes, like the difference between them in the first 7 minutes of that second half to the whole first half was like night and day. It's like all of a sudden they woke up, they wanted it, they pressed up in the kickouts, they had an urgency about them, they were tackling hard, they were really, really... But then, as soon as they got ahead again, they reverted back to type.
I think they're trying to hold somebody back, Anthony. I really do think so.
You possibly could be right on, because I was kind of looking at them and I was kind of saying, they're playing in spurts, right, for me. And you could be right in what you're saying, and I think it probably is. I think he has one eye on the fact of last year in the final, they had Dublin in bother for 15, 20 minutes at the start. They couldn't maintain it, but neither could they manage the game.
Yes.
Right? So, they didn't take the sting out of it. They didn't say, right, we're just going to play keep ball here for a bit, and look for runners, look for kind of darting runners to kind of really go at the Dublin defence, flick the ball out, maybe hit a couple of long scores, get fellas out in the loop like Donnelly or McShane. So they continued to go at it, and then they left themselves some holes at the back, which Dublin found. And Dublin ended up doing what they did. So I think he is trying to find a balance in styles. But I think it very easily could have caught them yesterday or on Saturday. It could have. There was a couple of... the big tall lad, the number 15 for Cork, had a great opportunity for a goal. Yeah, and then the other one, if you remember, the 11 comes through and sticks it over the bar right there, but instead of slipping him in, he was inside. They had 2 or 3 good goal chances, Cork, in the second half.
They'll be back. It did look like a team that were primed to challenge at the top of Division 2, never mind having to get out of Division 3 next year, but that's probably a story for another day. I just want to finish up briefly on Dublin. You've got about...
Who?
You've only got 60 seconds to talk us through. Let's focus on one player in the first half. Let's talk about Conor Callaghan.
Yeah. Well, I think what they're doing is, and it's very, very evident over the last number of weeks and months, Dublin are playing a long ball now.
Yeah.
That is in the armoury. So they have decided, okay, and it's actually very obvious. Sometimes Scully did it, if you remember, McCaffrey did it the last day, where he's actually putting the ball up, and he's saying, listen, I'm kicking this in. And Scully did it yesterday. He bounced twice, he had a free, and he bounced it twice. So it wasn't as obvious as that, but he was basically saying, this is coming in on top of you. You better win this. So Kilkenny and himself, if you remember, Kilkenny played a lot of the league, I think, last year in at full forward.
Yeah.
So he has that ability now to hold off. And in the modern game, back when I was playing and I ended up getting shifted into full back, there was a lot of high balls coming in, so you had to deal with that. In the modern game, you don't get that. You didn't get it much in the last couple of years. Everything was kind of out in front of you. And when you're in a packed defence, it's all about tracking runners and keeping into your zones. There's very little actually high balls just put in, and you have to go win your own ball. But Dublin have been obviously focusing on that. And with O'Callaghan and Kilkenny, they have 2 massively strong individuals who have a leap on them. Their conditioning, their athleticism is fantastic, and when they come down, their eyes are open, they're ready to flick passes or just turn you. O'Callaghan's turn yesterday, he was down on the ground and he was around the defender as quick as a lightning and banged over the bar. Should have been a goal really a couple of times. But they've added that to their game, and it's a massive threat. And it's an ability then to punch holes, but when they want to break, they can really kick long.
Yeah.
Like they got a score yesterday where the ball came down the line to Mannion. I don't know if he looked and he clipped it over a Roscommon player on Saturday into, I think, an unbelievable pass with his left foot. Again, now I will say one thing: Roscommon had a couple of chances of goals at a vital time in the first half, where. And I think this is the only way to beat Dublin. I just don't think they went 1-on-1 again.
Yeah.
Okay, similar to Cork, and they put the defence under pressure. Smith, if you remember, ghosted past a couple of guys, palmed a hand pass across, and it probably should have been caught and brought inside. But they had a couple of goal chances. They weren't going to win the game, but they're still showing people and showing teams that to beat them, you have to go 1-on-1 with them.
Yeah, it certainly is, and hopefully there's bigger tests coming down the line. I think there probably is. Anthony, thanks a million for popping in this morning.
No bother.
Shane Lowry Mania Central. There'll be more GA throughout the week here, and some great stuff coming up today on OTB Sports Radio. You've got the likes of Leader's Question, you've got Barry Ryan talking about the Ascent, you've got the Sunday Paper Review at 2 o'clock, plenty there. Offtheball.com/radio to get that. The Go Loud app is actually the best place to get that if you're on the go as well, and the TuneIn app if you already have that. That is our lot this morning from OTBAM. Thanks a million for joining us. Off the Ball is live on your radios from 7 tonight. We're back from 7:30 tomorrow morning. Good luck for now.
OTB
Brought to you by Avantcard Reward Plus Credit Card. Powered by MasterCard. Straight up better than your current credit card. Avantcard DAC is regulated by the Central Bank.